Hello, welcome to December Dash Call for December 27th. It's 11:02 a.m. I'm about a couple minutes behind here than usual, so hopefully I didn't freak anybody out. I know people tend to freak out whenever I'm a minute or two late on a stream. Sometimes, though, if you didn't know this, streams have difficulties, technical difficulties, and it could be a stream key. Um, I've seen the time where uh, dedicated string keys are not so dedicated all of a sudden, and there's nothing different that's been done on my end, I can promise you. Just weird stuff happens, right? So if you happen to see that I'm 2, 3 minutes late, something like that, you can count on the fact that there's something else going on in the technical difficulty side. If it's longer than 10 minutes, then I'm going to have to make a post, and I will do something like that. I have done something like that in the past if I've had technical difficulties that resulted in me not being able to come on to a live stream. We've been fortunate here, knock on wood, that that hasn't really happened in December, which is pretty cool. We have had technical difficulties, mind you, like I just had some today, but nothing that impaired us so much so that we couldn't be on the live stream as long as we wanted and for everything that we wanted to do. We did have a snafu on one session ending early in November, but I just went in and recorded a video to supplement the rest of what I was teaching on one of the fast start sessions. I believe it was day 3 actually, and then obviously splice those two videos together. So the recording is going to be the full length, right, of what was needed. But yeah, stuff like that happens. Challenges happen. Just be aware that you are not the only ones going through whatever you're going through. I promise, 100%. There's always going to be ups and downs for sure. Let me open up the chat here so I can see everybody telling me who they are and where they're tuning in from. Got that
The
right
only
this time.
ones. And
Going
let me
through mute the feed there. Okay, perfect. And pause the feed because I don't need to see myself like that on a 20, 30-second delay. Awesome. We got Scott with us. Steve Taylor's with us. Adrian is here. All the dedicated folks. I love it. I know it's Sunday, so I won't take up everybody's time. Um, we'll get right into it. So today's topic, and if you can't tell, I do feel a little bit better. You probably hear that I'm stopped up a little bit still, but in terms of being able to, fully function, um, not that I couldn't function yesterday. It's just I definitely felt like a sloth or a turtle for sure in terms of speed and just moving around even. But today much improved. Let's say that. So today's topic for December Dash is going to be uh, walks and naps. It's true. It really is true. Today's about walks and naps. And how did I write this? Let me make sure I get this right because there were some specific things I wanted to talk about when it comes to walks and naps. I didn't want to just say the words walks and naps and then that's it. Why they're a must and how to use them. So, um, first off, uh, I like sometimes naps do it for me and sometimes they don't. Most times I'd say they don't. And that's because I'm the kind of napper that I'll take a nap for 30 minutes, and if I'm not disciplined enough to set the alarm clock, and I don't, there's something about setting an alarm for 30 minutes that just really irks me that I don't want to do it. And so anytime that I'm going to take a nap, I expect to take a nap for at least 3 or 4 hours. And when the weather or when the seasons change and it gets dark early, it's like taking an afternoon nap. You wake up when it's dark. It's like fuck, because you wake up and it feels like midnight, right? And you're disoriented a little bit, even maybe you didn't mean to sleep that long, and now you can feel it, and you might be up all night, blah blah blah, the whole thing. So I do what I can to get done the important stuff at the beginning of the day. If I need to take a nap, what I'll do is I'll set something for 15 or 20 minutes. There's just something about the for me the number 30 because it's like right around that 30 mark is when you start to get settled, right? And so an alarm going off during that point is it's just too much for me. But a 15, 20 minute set works for me pretty well most of the time. I try not to though. If I do lay down for a second, I usually lay down in a sitting upright position, not completely upright, but and certainly not reclined all the way back, but it's a comfy chair. Um, lay back with my head. Usually I don't cover my eyes, but I'm away from sunlight, so I'm not completely in the dark, but I'm also not completely in the light. That way it doesn't allow me to actually rest. Um, or that way it does allow me to actually rest, I should say, without being in the light like that. And that typically does it for me if I need that. I usually do that as a last resort if the walks aren't working for me. So a lot of times, we've talked about state change several days ago or earlier this month, and state change is one of those things where there's a series of things you can do and manufacture as a process or a set of steps, if you will, to change your state. And one of those things that you can add to it is a quick walk. Now, there's been times, I kid you not, where I'm frustrated with something. I get up from the desk, I go to get some shoes on and go for a walk. And before I even make it out the door, I've already figured out what the problem is. I still go on the walk, right? I still go on the walk, and I'll explain why here in a second. But the idea is there's something about just being able to get up from something and walk away and disconnect completely. And I don't mean the whole time I'm getting ready for my walk, I'm thinking about the problem, right? When I get up for the walk, I take what I always do is I take my little notepad. I use these like crazy, but I take my little notepad. I take the pen that I always have on hand. Uh, Sometimes, or most times, I have like two pens on hand, um, but at least one pen. And I don't just go down there with it in hand like this or anything, but I just kind of carry it casually in the hand like this. And so I'm walking, and I go downstairs and I take care of just stuff around the kitchen, right? And I start looking around. I'm like, oh shit, I meant to uh, get some garbage bags ordered. And so I'll just not necessarily make a to do list. I know this sounds crazy, but stuff that I've been meaning to do and they just haven't taken the time to write it down. Um, Maybe while I'm down there, I'll give Jesse another treat or something. I can't really say that word that loud because she might hear me say that and freak out and go, "Oh my God, I'm going to get one! I'm going to get one!" He said it. He said that word. He said the awesome word, right? The T word. He said the T word. She's so funny. Anyway, but I'll do something like that and watch her enjoy that. And so if you notice, I've already completely disconnected. The last thing on my mind is whatever it was I just walked away from at the desk up there. Uh, and I'm not even in problem solving mode yet, right? Sometimes people do well with showers. I always have some of my best ideas in the shower, first thing in the morning. The noon shower, kind of. The night shower, not as much. The night shower is more of a now. Don't get me wrong. There's been some night showers where it's just been ridiculously good for ideas, but most of those sessions are the morning time. Um, Hell, there's been morning dumps that have been. I know this sounds gross and or grotesque and all that. But I'm just being straight with you, 100% straight. Where if I'm firing on all eight, I'm not even off the toilet yet before my mind has hit a couple of really cool ideas. And so if you're wondering how like someone comes up with crazy cool ideas to try, and not just try, but a lot of winners, it's not because I only come up with winners, folks. I'm human just like anybody else. Hell, maybe more than most of you in terms of making mistakes. I'm more human than most of you in that regard, I would say. But I'm not afraid to make them, and I make a crap ton of them. Uh, I've already gone through several iterations and mistakes and worked them out in a lot of cases, like I said, while I'm on the toilet, finding the good idea. And then maybe I only have two or three of those good ideas left from the toilet, but I take them, I write them down, and I apply them, right? One of those is going to win. At some point, sooner or later, I'm going to run into some winners, right? You've probably heard this expression before or a version of it. A broken clock is right twice a day. Uh, Sun shines on a dog's ass every now and again. Every now and again, a blind squirrel finds a nut. I mean, there's a million different ways to say the same thing, which is if you just wait around long enough and not wait, if you stay at something long enough, if you're consistent with those kinds of habits, those traits, those things that you do, uh, you will find ways around things, creative things, really cool things that just people are like, man, how did you figure that out? And then it's like you have to try to explain all of that because there's a lot more to it than that. And keep in mind, what I just described to you is a sliver of what the actual processes are that happen. And I'm not even done telling you. I haven't even left the door yet to go on the walk. I told you I still go on the walk, even though I figured out, in most cases, I figured out what the issue is or the problem is. Somehow, by hitting the reset button like that and just caring about something else, usually someone else, or like, for example, my dog or my mom, checking in on people, messaging them, giving phone calls out. That's one of those times, like I said, where it's like, oh, I've got on that list. I should probably hit Dale up. I should probably hit this friend up. I should probably hit that friend up. And so I hit them up and not expecting anything back right away. If I do, great. If I don't, well, I've reached out at least, right? At the very least, to let them know I'm thinking about them or checking in on them, seeing what they're up to, right? Genuinely interested in what they're doing, not just reaching out to them because I'm frustrated and want to vent or something like that. That's not something I like to do. I do it occasionally, but I'd much rather catch up with somebody and have good conversation with them about whatever they got going on or whatever's on their mind. Maybe it's something I hadn't even considered yet. Maybe it's something that'll help me. I've had conversations like that happen where I make it all about them because I care about what they're going through. I really do. And even if I'm in the middle of whatever, I'm going through, it's nice to be able to reach out to people and let them know you're still there. And if you can help them, help them. And then sometimes in those conversations, by helping some of those people, some of those friends of mine, I end up helping myself. Some of the stuff I help them with or help create solutions for them are solutions I can use or that you guys can use from what I've created. There's a lot of really cool things that come from this kind of way of living, if you will. Anyway, I step outside the door, right? I step out the door to go on my walk. I've got my pen and I've got my little post-it note pad, and I look like a dork. Don't give a shit. Usually stick it in my back pocket because I don't care if it gets messed up. I just need to have it on hand so that I can write stuff down. Now, if I've thought of the possible solutions or solution before I've even left the door, I write it down right on the post-it note in shorthand, um, uh, detailed enough to where when I get back to the desk, I can sort out what's what, right? And then I go for the walk. And on the walk, I do typical reset things, mindsets, state of mind, and mindset changes, right? Shifts. And that's going to, or state changes, whatever you want to call them. And those will be things like, obviously, the walking itself increases the blood flow. That's always good. The cold, especially this time of year, uh, helps. I don't know, wake you up. It's not exactly an ice bath, but it's not warm out either. So it's definitely uh, a stark difference between the temperature inside versus outside, and especially on windy days, my God, it gets brutal. It feels brutal anyway, and that'll wake you up. I mean, I've had cryotherapy before. I like it, and the closest thing you can get to that is a really windy day in winter in Vegas. It's pretty close to that in terms of the feeling, especially if you don't wear a jacket that it can cut through the. I have jackets that can do that, but for some reason I end up wearing like my favorite sweatshirt or something, and that doesn't work that well for that kind of stuff. But the point is, it serves to it actually serves me because it wakes me up and gets the blood pumping for sure. Um, to where by the time I've come back from a walk, if I haven't broken a sweat, then I'm not doing it right. But now I'm in full go mode. I'm not only motivated, but I've got potential solution or potential solutions and things, multiple things to look at, and usually an idea or two for something completely unrelated to what I was working on when I left the desk, but something that I do have on my to-do list or on my plate that I can use as something to look into for solutions on that. That's how crazy it is, and that's how fast it happens. That's a 5 or 10 minute walk where it sounds completely unproductive when you think about a walk, right? Uh, but when I look at it, uh, I see I'm able to step away from something and move laterally, yes, at least temporarily, uh, because I go downstairs, I take care of everything. and make a couple lists. I remember I need to talk to this person. I give my dog a you know what, I can't say that word. I give my dog a T word, and watch her enjoy that, and then I'm starting to already see a couple things I need on my grocery list or whatever, and then it's okay. I'm out the door, and it's like, man, what I could try this, I could try that, I could try that, and it doesn't always hit me before I leave the door. Sometimes it's during the walk, and I just as I'm walking, I tend to not stop walking, but also do one of the. It's almost like a you have the idea, it hits you like a lightning bolt, and you don't stop dead in your tracks, but you just kind of slow down and make sure you're not running into anything like this as you're looking ahead, and you write your notes, and then you put it back in your pocket and you keep walking, right? But a 10-minute walk will completely change everything because if you look at it, I moved laterally, and now some of the things in my personal life uh, have the focus has shifted to that. Then it shifts to back to solutions for my problem. And before I get done with the walk, which I've committed to doing, I've got solutions to other problems or other things on my plate that I'm not even currently 100% focused on. Just like that. Just like that. Now, those don't always work out, but a lot of them do. A lot of them tend to because I just get into that mode of just problem solving, right? Um, anyway, that's uh, that's the walks for me. It's the walks more than the naps. However, the naps can be like a good shower in the morning, right? Especially if it's that 10 to 15 minute thing. You could also do something like a meditation. So I use, and what was it? David Bennett mentioned the other day that site. I still got to look at that. But I have stuff like that bookmarked because I'm always interested in meditation sessions and things like that. But there's a ton of technology out there today, even available on your mobile phone. Um, like Headspace and whatnot that you can use to do like a 10-minute relaxation session, right? And then, of course, when the session's up, your alarm goes off at 15-minute mark, and there's your nap, and you're not like overly um, ready to go to sleep or pissed off that you had to wake up. Something about that 30-minute mark, I'm telling you, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me, but again, that's why I'm sharing that with you so that you know everybody's different. Some people could probably go 30, 45 minutes on a nap. I know people that could do that and wake up and be totally refreshed. For me, it's a 15 to 20 minute thing. Any more than 20 minutes, and when I wake up, I'm not going to feel refreshed. I'm going to feel groggy and almost like, man, I should go back to bed kind of feeling, unless I can force myself to actually wake up and move around, in which most cases I don't want to. So that's why 15 to 20 minutes, that's it. That's it for me. Um, Try it out, test it, play around with it. If I were you, I wouldn't make that my first option. I'd make it my last resort because most of the time your body needs increased blood flow, not a decrease, right? Unless you're going through something super highly stressful that you've been going at it for 10 hours, then yeah, you might need a 15, 20 minute breather in that way for sure. But if you're in the middle of your day and you're not super stressed out, but you're also not getting this problem solved and you need to step away for a second, um, then that's what I would do. I'd go on a walk, 100%. And those really, really do help. Um, Sometimes I need to call people up and use them as a sounding board. And I tell them straight out, full transparency on the call, like, hey, man, listen, I always love catching up with you. Usually it's a friend, right? Love catching up with you. Here's my thing. I'm in the middle of working on something. I took a break from it because I need to run something by you. You got a minute? And I'll let them know very clearly that this is not necessarily a call of me checking up on them this time around or what they're into, even though that the call may go that way, right? Uh, but I definitely need the sounding board in a lot of cases when I make those calls. Um, if I decide to make those calls, I do my best to solve the problem first without going crazy myself, because usually I have the answers, right? Um, Not always, but usually. And I think you'll find if you start doing stuff like this, you'll find that you have most of the answers too. You may not like some of them, right? Or they may not sit as well with you. And there's things you can do to improve them for sure. Um, but you'll have most of the answers, believe it or not. And there will be times to reach out to people, absolutely. And just don't be afraid to do that. right? I encourage that kind of stuff. That's why I make myself available like that, so you can reach out and ask questions. Okay. But I think that's enough on that. So walks and naps. Uh, Again, how did I word that? Why they're a must and how to use them. So yes, walking is a must, 100%. It's not only a healthy thing to do. Again, it gets the blood flow going, get your mind right, gets a lot of things solved for you, and all you're doing is walking around, and you live a better quality life because your friends are always kept in. You always keep in touch with them, not always necessarily, but you keep in better touch with your friends than you would normally. Your doggy eats well, and the kitchen stays stocked with stuff that you keep meaning to put on the list. Blah blah blah. All that stuff gets done. It's so weird how that all works out, but it all works to your advantage because I'll tell you, I don't have to worry about whether I forgot something or not. Things rarely slip through the cracks with me on the home front and in business because of those kinds of habits. 100%. Um, Without the walks, I'd be lost 100% on that as well. The naps, not so much, but there are times where only a nap could save me. You know what I mean? And that's why I say use it, but just use it as a last resort. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at comments. I'm going to grab the link here for the Zoom. Sinuses are still bothering me, but not headache level, not end of the world kind of stuff right now, which is good, but they are bothering me. Let's see. John's tuning in. Quessy's tuning in. Tim's here. Robert, very good to see all you guys. Muhammad is here. Adrian says, I've actually gotten upset on some days and I fell asleep much longer than I planned. For instance, I set the alarm for 20 minutes sleep, and then that turns into 2 to 4 hours when I initially planned that 2 to 4 hours to get business tasks done. My type A personality at its peak. LOL, I'm aiming to be more easygoing into 2021, though. Let me tell you, you got to work. You got to work with what you got. Um, that is really hard for type A's to accept. I know. Ask me why I know, because I am a type A. Um, but I'll tell you, I'm not afraid anymore and haven't been for some time um, to work with what I got. Meaning, if stuff like that happens, and here's how I account for it. It's going to sound crazy, but type A's tend to look for that perfection, right? And we're not robots, though. That's the problem. That's the thing. We're not machines. Now, I look at that as a blessing, not a curse, because I also know that I have the capacity to be smarter than the machine, to make the machine, to fix the machine, right? And multiple machines in many, many cases fix and create machines that do the job that I need them to do. In other words, over time, uh, it's like if I wanted to build a car, most people would think, okay, well, you mean building one in your garage of the house, right? Your two-car garage in the house. No, I mean, I when I think of building a car, I think of building a car factory, a completely automated factory that, yes, requires somebody to be able to update and maintenance or maintain machines, perform maintenance rather, um, but also fix them when they break because machines break. Now, humans are much more resilient, much harder to break, as it were, in terms of uh, what we can do, how far we can push ourselves, right? And there's something so interesting about that to me, and the fact of who we are, right? And I don't mean um, I mean who we are as like the biological makeup, right? Not as who we are in here, right? Obviously, that counts in a lot of ways, but on this topic, for type A's, I look at it as, if I screw up, right, and my 20 minutes turned into 2 to 4 hours, and I wake up and I'm very upset actually. If I'm being 100% transparent, I'm pissed at myself, not happy, and I have to actually do a reset once I get woke up, right? Like in other words, once I'm fully awake and now I'm functional, like I still do the whole same thing. I do my water. Um, I'll grab a green drink if I need to because I know I'm going to need the energy. And then I start to make decisions once I know I'm fully awake, right? And I know I'm fully awake and 100% there cognitively when I am playing some music on my phone and a headset, usually my AirPods Pro or something, and I'm walking around the house and I'm listening. I'm just all I'm doing is just listening to music, and then when I'm able to start singing along and do it on a fairly complicated song, so think fast rap or think classical, but I'm humming along with the notes like an idiot, but still am able to do that, then I know I'm awake. And then I say, okay, what am I doing? What am I going to do about this? Do I stay up all night and work through the night and just get good sleep tomorrow night and then readjust that way? Or do I set a few tasks, work on them, and get to where I can get to them, get on them, and then go to bed again, right? And sleep in and spend more time in the bed. What does my body need? So I start asking the questions of myself, uh, what do I need? What can not what I can not what can I tolerate, not what can I get away with, not what can I push or stretch myself to, even though there are times where I do ask that question. Um, but I don't ask that question all the time because eventually you're going to break down. You're going to have to do like this massive 36-hour sleep reset thing. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to do that all the time. So I evaluate. I say, well, was it a 2 hour screw up or was it a 4 hour screw up, right? And that's going to play into, and then what time of day did I actually wake up versus what time of day did I actually go to sleep? Um, that whole thing, right? And then also the tasks at hand. Are the tasks at hand very, very heavy lifting? How refreshed do I feel from that 2 to 4 hours? Maybe I needed that 2 to 4 hours. I'm okay with that, especially if I'm able to work through the night and feel good about it. Now, is that something I do every day? Absolutely not, right? Absolutely not. But I'm also not going to let one fuck up completely fuck up everything else for the next day and a half, 2, 3 days a week, right? I'm not that much of a perfectionist. And that's kind of my point is like as a type A, we have to learn that that perfection will get in the way of the greater good. And so I always make sure that uh, I am evaluating every day, every minute of every day, everything I do. Is it in the way of, uh, is it for the greater good or is it to appease my perfectionist streak? Right. And so when I say I'm a recovering perfectionist, that's exactly what I mean. Am I choosing to indulge in being perfect or creating something perfect all the time, or am I focused more on the greater good? Now, sometimes those things align, and sometimes they're completely not aligned, and one is very clearly different than the other. And that's why people get confused, is because those lines kind of come in and out of each other with what's perfect and the greater good. Those tend to go the same direction, but the lines do come in and out of each other like that. And so with that, you have actually, excuse me, it'll be like this so that you guys can see. They'll do this, right? You guys can't see that as well as you can this, right? Uh, anyway, that's uh, that's how I see things when it comes to the Type A personality. Building the car factory as opposed to building a car in the garage. Now, can you build a car in the garage? Yeah, yeah, you can. Can you build one well? Absolutely, you can. You can refine your techniques and everything. However, if you get it down on scale, right, inside of a factory where you've built machines that run that, and you're able to run those machines, will all of the machines run 24/7 if you're the only dude in the factory? No. Can you hire and train people to run the factory as you create and develop the machines and the assembly lines? Absolutely, you can. Will you still have problems along the way? Absolutely, you will. But ultimately, you will be able to produce at production rate a very awesome automobile, right? If you work at it enough, is my point, and you'll be able to produce that very fine automobile at a very high production rate, meaning what would take most people months and months in a maybe even years in a two-car garage, you can pop out several hundred in a day, right? That's how good it can get. Will it be that way from day one? No. But will it get there? Yes. And that's very much what I teach you in the pay per call business model that I teach you, the agency model that I teach you is yes, we start out, I show you all the ins and outs of building a car, but then I'm also showing you at the same time, hey, look, here's this thing, here's this machine that puts on the tires for you, right? Puts on the wheels and tires for you, and it bolts them on. All you got to do is have somebody come by and check and make sure all the lug nuts are tightened, and the car rolls down the line. Hey, here's this machine that holds the door for you, it mounts it, even drills the holes and threads everything. And all you have to do, and it even puts the bolts in, all you have to do is go in and make sure they're tightened. Like go in and check the work of the machine. And if the machine starts failing, here's the list of things. In other words, here's the KPIs for your staff if those machines and systems start failing to evaluate, okay, that door machine's not working right. Now, does that mean the whole production line has to stop? No. Other things keep moving on. That car comes off to the side and gets put back onto the production line and rolls on down the line when the door machine is fixed, right? Um, Sometimes if it's a complete like breakdown in systems and processes, yeah, the assembly line might stop. But again, we're talking about focusing on the production the production rate daily as opposed to whether or not we're getting one car out of the two car garage. To start with, it's very much like working on or building a car in your two car garage. Absolutely. As a one man band agency, that's exactly what it is. But then you can still get systems and processes in place and fabrication methods down to where working out of a two car garage, you can still churn out cars, just not at the rate of the Ford factory, the Ford Motor Company, for example, or Tesla Motors, right? You're not going to be able to churn out production rate like they can, uh, and or maybe necessarily the quality that they can, because a lot of their stuff is automated like crazy, right? They still have humans on the floor, and they still have humans checking the work and making sure the machines are properly functioning and all that kind of stuff as well, and maintained, and everything's being managed from the catwalks above. That is very good example and analogy of the kind of agency you would want to build as opposed to just working out of the two car garage. Can you work out of the two car garage? Yeah. Can you turn a profit doing that, selling cars out of? Yeah, absolutely you can, especially if you price them higher because it's a premium. Um, can you can you do both? Can you go start in one and graduate to the car factory? Can you start in your two car garage and graduate to the car factory? Absolutely, you can. Can you do that if you're more worried about the fact that you fucked up on a 2 hour to 4 hour nap when it was supposed to be 20 minutes versus immediately, as soon as you're able to mentally, right? From a good place, figure out what comes next, right? Because the car factory, in my mind, this is how I look at it. Two car garage, you can go in there anytime you want or not, right? Car can just sit out there for months, right? And you don't do anything with it. Car factory, not so much. Car factory is like one of those things where you wake up, pretend like it's 2 to 4 hours later than you wanted to spend on the nap, and now you get woke up, but pretend it's you got woken up because it was an emergency at the car factory. How are you going to react? Are you just going to sit there and beat yourself up over and over? No, you need to get the factory running again. It's middle of the night, or uh, pretend middle of the night, right? Even if the factory's not shut down, that's how you should treat those kinds of scenarios to short circuit that type A in us, right? That's what I like to do is short circuit it. Doesn't mean that it's not there. It means that I work with what I got, right? I work with with what I have. I don't know how else to really say that other than um, some of us are type A, some of us aren't. The ones that are, that's what I would do if I were you. Work with what you got. Don't fight against it. Don't certainly don't beat yourself up about it any longer than is absolutely completely necessary, which is 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Easier said than done, but I just gave you different ways of, well, that's why I gave you different ways of not coping with, but working with what you are, who you are, right? Instead of trying to change who you are, work with it. Now, how does that apply in personal life? Well, do you know how many times I've been around people and by the way, me being a type A, I tend to like people that are more free spirited, right? Because I won't say that I aspire to be free spirited. There are things that I am free spirited about, and then there are things where I'm just no, I got to have that within a window or within a box. Um, as a type A, that's just how it goes for us type A's. But I'm also not going to just not experience those things or not be around those kinds of people. I enjoy those types of people. I enjoy those types of experiences because they show me things that I never would have come up with as quickly on my own. And so the experiences are much more vivid and much more fun, at least for me, enjoyable, memorable than I could ever come up with on my own, being a type A. Now, for some reason, I'm extremely creative, right? It doesn't make sense to me sometimes. Being a type A, being creative, you would think that I would be more of a free spirit with the creativity that I have. But again, it's a learned skill. It's not a it's not something that you're born with. I guess some people are born with that creative streak. Because I'm creative, I'm just not artistically creative. And I guess you could argue that because there are some things I come up with that would seem like a work of art. At the same time, though, I'm not a designer. Like if you were to say, hey, can you graphically design something for me? I'd be like, yeah, I can. It's going to probably look like shit, but at least to start. But if you were to ask me to pick out designs that a graphic designer made based off of what I gave them on feedback for what I'm looking for, and they were to give me designs or renderings, I'd be like, yep, that's the one, right? Or I'm liking these two or these three, I'm liking that direction. These not so much, but these over here, right? I have an eye for it, sure, but can I create that? No, not really. Not graphic design anyway. Definitely not video production. There's some things in video production I've gotten better at, obviously learned skill. Haven't really spent a lot of time learned skill wise in the image department there or graphic design department. But that's because I know that I have enough of an eye for it and I know what I want or something along the lines of what I want that I can communicate that effectively enough, get what I need eventually and fairly quickly, not eventually, but fairly quickly without a lot of muss and fuss. No muss, no fuss, right? So I'm not really concerned about having that learning curve in my life right now. Maybe one day, and that's what I always tell myself for the things that are lower on the priority list. I don't have to have that. I got people that have that can handle that. Where my interests lie are more in the creative streaks of the problem solving and the automation and the systems and processes. That's where my level, that's where my area of genius is, right? Um, and as long as I have an eye for graphic design, as long as I have the learning curve and what I learn about video production, I don't have to be a video production master or anything like that. But I've got people that can handle those kinds of things for me at an expert level. But I am allowed to, not allowed to, I have earned the level of giving them direct feedback of what I'm looking for this time around versus past projects I've worked on with them, maybe say, and give them some kind of perspective of what I'm looking for that's improved, different. I learn new techniques, different things that we can apply. For example, I mean, like, I if you were to look at if you were to look at this live stream, for example, I already said, for example, if you were to look at this live stream, it's not perfect, right? There are things that are different about it, though. Like I have an intro and outro. Most people wouldn't have that kind of stuff, right? We're multicasting to different places like YouTube, multiple places in Facebook, LinkedIn, uh, Twitter, and we do have the ability to live stream to Instagram. Believe it or not, we haven't done that, but we do have that ability, or I do have that ability. My point is, there's things that I've come up with that I haven't seen anybody else do, and I think it's because they can't really come up with things off the cuff enough for like video memes and inserts. So, but I have a Stream Deck, right? I have a Stream Deck for that. If you guys know what that is, I don't know if you know what that is or not. I don't know if you can see that or not. There we go. It's on a cord, so there's only so much I can kind of mess around with it. Anyway, I've got a Stream Deck that's got all these different cool functions in it, and of course it has to be pre-programmed, and so there's a learning curve there, but it was very minimal. And I've been using a Stream Deck for a few years now, along with OBS. That's the broadcasting software that I use and love so much. But I've added to it over the last few months where my learning curve has gone through the roof for doing video memes where I can provide inspirational messages like this seamlessly.
Just do it! Make your dreams come true!
Right? See, I can do that kind of stuff in the middle of a stream, which is normally stuff you would find. Like if you watch YouTube videos, for example, PewDiePie or any of those like major production guys, they edit stuff like that into their videos, and their videos are pre-recorded. This is a live stream, and I'm able to look at all these different buttons and have stuff up and uh, I don't know. I've got all kinds of them, right? Just funny ones, pre-programmed. I've got, oh, here's one of my favorites just for random, no reason. PopCat. Everybody knows what PopCat is. Hopefully you do. Just funny video memes like that. And there's plenty more for me to add. But again, my point is, all that came from me understanding that I'm not going to be the best live streamer in the world, and I don't need to be. I just need to be able to teach what I teach, right, and do that well. Um, Everything else will come as it comes if it needs to, right? I don't have to have everything perfect before I just go live stream. And it's another reason why, yes, I'm an introvert. I don't like necessarily being on live stream, but I understand the necessity. It's necessary for me to be on live stream with you guys through this process. And I think if there's ever anything that taught me that, or reminded me or reinforced that for me lately, it was doing these live streams daily in December. We're not done with them yet, but it is the 27th. Um, so we're almost done, right? And I can tell you already, hindsight and reflection for the month already, that without it, I wonder where some people would be, and it wouldn't be in the place that they're in now, and that would be a bad thing. So it's a good thing that we're doing the live streams um, daily. I'm not going to continue doing them daily though, but I am going to find things to supplement for sure. There's going to be a lot of things that already have been on my mind on how to provide for you guys like that at that level and beyond, um, because I see that it's necessary, right? Not because I enjoy doing it, but because it's what I find to be necessary. And I put that as the greater good versus perfectionist, because the perfectionist in me says you're not ready to live stream. You don't, you don't want to be on camera. You don't have everything fluid and perfect and set up exactly the way you want. You're close, sure, but close ain't perfect, right? That's what the perfectionist says to me inside of me. That says to myself, talks to myself. Um, the greater good side though says the message needs to be heard. People need to be taught. It's more than good enough to do what needs to be done, and it's engaging and semi-entertaining. There are some dry spots, sure, but there is with any kind of information like this. It's significant in its amount and it's ongoing. So there's things you can do to break that up and teach differently, different types of formats. Example, December Dash sessions, daily live streams. Those are different, completely different format than our normal live streams. Which, speaking of, we have one tomorrow. Tomorrow is again a scheduling conflict on Monday, so we're going to do the same thing. 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll do the daily December Dash live stream, but just for an hour, because then I've got to bounce over to the mentorship. We're going to do 2 hours in the mentorship, and then I'm going to come back to the main group here at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, when we would normally do 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm going to bounce at 2 hours because Mondays are the days that we do the mentorship calls at 12 p.m. So this won't happen again, the scheduling conflict where the 14th and 28th, right? Those free calls that we do, uh, they usually don't conflict with Mondays or end up on Mondays, um, which is when the mentorship calls happen every so often. And the next time it happens is actually in June of next year. So we'll have 5 good months of no scheduling conflicts for the 14th and 28th calls and the mentorship calls, the Monday mentorship calls. So um, that's how we'll handle that tomorrow, by the way, for those that are wondering, just like we did on the 14th of this month. And we're not going to miss our December Dash live stream, daily live streams. That's why I set them at 11 a.m. so that we would make sure that those are always going to be there throughout the entire month. Um, anyway, I know that was a lot of stuff, but I see the type A thing, and I totally get where you're coming from, dude. I get it, and I get it maybe more than most. And hopefully that helps you understand how I deal with it and work with it and function. I don't put up with it. I don't suffer it. I embrace it and say, how do I use this to my advantage? Because I know that eh, being a perfectionist is only bad if it gets in the way of the greater good. Because the perfectionist streak in me is going to drive the greater good results to be even better, right? Like that's a given if I'm able to detach from only being a perfectionist. That's why I talk and joke about being a recovering perfectionist, because I very much believe that if there were a recovery for it, that I would be in it, because that's what it feels like to me. It's where I have those tendencies. I have the predisposition to go that way very quickly, but I also have safeguards in place that catch me, right? That I in systems and processes that I built for how I function as a type A and how I choose to function as a type A. There's a difference. How I function as a type A versus how I choose to function as a type A. And how I choose to function as a type A is the greater good, perfection be damned, because there will be time to make things better, always, right? Always. And that's what drives me, and that's how I get the results that I get, folks. In case you're wondering. So if you type A's are trying to figure out like why you get stuck all the time because of your type A stuff and the perfection streak in you, hopefully that helps explain. I get more stuff done. I run through more walls and more mistakes and more bad ideas to find the winners, and then I expand on the winners, right? I expand on the winners. That's what I do. That's it. It really is that simple. It's not an overcomplicated process. So hopefully that helps you, because I read that message that you wrote, Adrian, right? And I see the type A in it as well. So I've had personal experiences with what you just described in your 2 to 4 hour accidental thing, right? And then I explained to you how I deal with that, right? Because it does happen. But I also feel your type A trying to manage and fight against the daily battle of perfection versus the greater good. Because I know you've heard that before, but it's not a battle. Not if you go with the flow. And that's my point. Um, you have to understand that by going with the flow and always choosing the greater good over perfection, always, right? You have to shift that and make it your default. As a type A, that can be challenging, but if you also understand the outcome is always better, always better. Even if you get to the perfect state on something, the outcome of the greater good is always going to be better long term than the perfection state, the perfection way. Sometimes they're the exact same, right? But most of the time they're in and out of each other. They're barely for only a moment are they in the same alignment, and they don't oscillate it evenly either. They usually do this weird, kind of thing. So whenever they are aligned, great, but it's not often. And it's certainly not often enough for you to only stick with the perfectionist track, right? So I would say always default to, as a type A, default to make it your perfection, make your perfectionist streak. The perfection is achieved by always defaulting to the greater good because you know the long term, that's what's going to pay out the most, right? In terms of anything you do, anything and everything you do. And along the way, can you make things better and better and better and better towards the perfectionist in you? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that will drive results that most people, you'll still have. I'll tell you this, most people will look at you in awe when you do that kind of stuff. I promise. Um, Most people will, especially if you, especially if you happen to sound like a redneck, like me. Um, a lot of people don't understand how I do what I do, or operate at the levels that I do, um, and do so well. They just don't get that. And the reason they don't get that is because they don't really know me. All they know is the accent or the fact that I curse a lot. They don't really hear the substance, right? They don't have the experiences that I've had, or haven't had the experiences that I've had. They also don't they underestimate my creative abilities and abilities to problem solve, right? Constantly, even people that think they know me have always been surprised by the stuff that I can come up with, um, and not just randomly either, right? Um, you just put me on the spot, and I'll be able to sort you out pretty quickly in most cases from direct experience in almost every case too. Not always, but in most cases. And that's it's an interesting position to be in because you may not recognize, especially being type A and us being tend to being harder on ourselves than others are. We do that for ourselves, right? We shouldn't be, but that's what we do. We we hear all of these people say and compliment us and say, "Man, you got your shit together, man. Your head's in the right place. You come up with all this cool stuff. It's awesome. I'm gonna follow you. I'd follow you to the ends of the earth." And those are all great things, by the way. They're not unappreciated by any means. However, for Type A's, it's much more difficult because we don't have any self validation, or very little, I should say, self validation that coincides with those compliments from outside sources. And so sometimes that can make us feel like frauds. Sometimes it makes us feel like everybody's blowing smoke up our ass, even if they're not. 100%. This is what type A's tend to deal with, and so I've had to develop systems and processes to stop, listen, and fully accept what somebody is trying to tell me. Seriously. Um, Am I the best at it? No, I'm not. Am I getting better at it all the time? Absolutely, I am. And I pay more attention to those kinds of things, not because I need validation from other people, but because when I do get it, I usually don't realize I'm getting it, right? Now I realize more than I used to. Okay. So things to think about, things that make you go, as a type A, right? But please don't work against it. Don't try and be something you're not, like be more easygoing. Type A's aren't typically uptight. The only time type A's are uptight is when they think that something is not perfect. And again, if you're working towards the greater good, by default, your easygoing comes that way, right? And it really is a much healthier lifestyle to live for sure. You're not going to die of a heart attack on a Monday, I can promise you that, or die from stress related problems. Uh, your quality of life will go way up as well. So hopefully, I know that again, that was a very big type A rant, but I see that, and I just want to make sure that you understand. I not only get where you're coming from, I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and here's how you can avoid having to go through getting the T-shirt, right? Robert says walks are super good to me. Oxygen and blood flow to deliver the oxygen. Also standing while working, just need to find a good shelf or something to put the laptop on. Sitting down for hours is in the past. Yeah, I like standing desks. They're pretty cool. They make some powered ones nowadays. Like Office Max has one for I don't know 300-400 bucks I think. That's just a flat desk, but it's very wide and it's powered, motored. It's really nice desk, and it can go from sitting to standing, which is also nice. Um, Muhammad says, agree with you wholeheartedly. I have personally had some significant breakthroughs when I'd go out for a walk in the park. It's the dual effect of walking and being in nature that does the magic. It really is being outside. Yeah, going for a walk in the house is not the same because I do pace usually when I'm on the phone, or if sometimes late at night I'm thinking. But I'll tell you, yeah, being out in the air, the open air, um, you wouldn't think a type A would be a nature freak, but I actually enjoy the nature very much so, or that not the nature, nature. I enjoy a natural setting very much so, and all different kinds of landscapes. I don't go out as often as I'd like to, hiking and doing some of the things like that. Camping I used to do when I was younger, but I very much long to, and I will get back to that state where I feel comfortable doing those things again. Right now, I got a lot of stuff on the plate. Every day counts, and hell, I may never get back to it. I don't know, but I know this: nature is always good for you, 100%, and walking, 100% as well. In regards to meditation as a regular meditator, one has to acknowledge the powerful bursts of energy and inspiration a 15 to 20-minute meditation session can so consistently provide. Yet another beautiful topic. Love it. Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. Meditation is, even if you're not a great meditator, you'd be surprised after 1 week straight what your life is like after that. You talk about taking that concept of what I just gave you on the greater good versus the perfectionism in us, right? For type A's, and you add to that 15 to 20-minute reset sessions of meditation and the power walks. My God, like you'll be a beast instantly. Your productivity will go through the roof. Even if you already are a beast, this will make you like super beast. I'm telling you, it's crazy. Um, so that's how you do it with the help of a Stream Deck. Yes, I love Stream Deck. It's and they have a bigger one. I'm contemplating picking it up. It's like a 32 key Stream Deck, but there's actually folders that I can use, and I have different. Stream Deck is not an advertisement for Stream Deck. It probably should be. I should be an affiliate for them, but I'm not. You can find them on Amazon. Stream Deck is the name. They work well with all kinds of streaming services, not just OBS or anything. But it's a USB. I plug it into the adapter that goes straight into the USB-C of the MacBook that I got. And I have, I'll give you an example. So I've got a whole set, a whole couple of screens. And keep in mind, this is the 15 key. This is the 15 key Stream Deck. There's a 32. Like I said, it's bigger. I like it. I like the way it looks. I've got my eye on it. I'm debating. Um, but I kind of don't need it. Is why I'm debating. The I've got several different profiles, if you will. So I've got one for when I go live, just for ring ads specifically. I've got one for when I go live for ring ads when I do any kind of webinars or sales pitches. Okay. So any kind of preloaded sales videos and things like that. Some of them I have yet to record, but it's on my to-do list. I've got a whole set of buttons for that, right? And then I've got one for set up for my Prime sessions that I'm still working on. Part of the reason why I haven't updated all the Prime sessions yet is because I want to get that not perfect, but again, I want to get that to a level that I feel comfortable with. But again, it's got its own set of buttons. Then I've got, believe it or not, Stream Deck actually works with Camtasia. It works with Camtasia, so you can create. It actually works with a lot of different stuff. Think hotkeys. It's like a hotkey thing, right? You can use this for hotkeys as well, and Camtasia works really well for me because whenever I record a video, sometimes I use Camtasia, sometimes I use Loom. I like to use Loom here lately, and then I'll take the Loom video, download it, put it into Camtasia, into my editing platform, basically, and I'll use the hotkeys here on the Stream Deck for editing the video. So, for example, I've got open a new project, save a new project, open an existing, save as, and then in the editing folder, which is a whole other screen from that, um, I've got cut, paste, copy, delete, splice, all the usual stuff where all I need is one hand on the mouse, one hand on the Stream Deck, and I'm looking right at what I'm doing, right? And I can edit so much faster that way than if I had to just use the mouse, because usually you have to use the mouse to or hotkeys, I guess, on the computer. I guess I could use the keyboard. It's wireless and everything, but there's something about having the Stream Deck. You might as well go ahead and have it programmed in there because it's something that's very portable. You can take with you anyway. Another reason why I'm not sure about the 32 key, because that fucker's big. You know what I mean? Like compared to this one, it's like half the size or less, and it folds down on the stand. I don't know if I really need. You know what I'm saying? Um, but then there's there's a night night button. I call it the night night button. Uh, it's just a you can change out the icons. You can make custom icons and all that kind of stuff. But I have a screensaver for it. It's actually the Ring Ads logo. I don't know if you can see that or not. And then whenever I press a button, it pulls it back up. You'll see the night night button there is right there. And then I've got all the different scenes I just described. So if I were to come into Ring Ads Live, you'll see like all the different buttons, and then there's a few folders. And some of these folders are like for promotions. So when I get a couple promotion videos, I'll be able to string them into as like pre-rolls and mid-rolls for sessions. It gives me like a 2 minute break. It explains what Ring Ads Prime is all about. It explains what Ring Ads Mirror is all about for those of you that don't know that kind of stuff. And then there's things like sounds that I can run. There's memes, and then there's folders of memes. So that way I can just navigate very quickly and hit a meme and then come back and transition very easily. And then when it's time to wrap up, I usually have like a multi-function set of buttons to where when I start the stream, it's not just starting the stream, it actually starts the recording in OBS on my computer real time in HD, so that I can upload it faster to the web. It starts the stream, yes, mutes my mic, plays the 10 seconds of the black screen, then it plays the intro video, then it shifts over to my camera, like now, and unmutes my mic. Right? It's a multi-action. I press one button to make all that happen, right? And it does it over like the course of 20 seconds, which is what I've timed it out to do. And that's how I start my streams, right? Used to be I actually had a button for each of those activities, which sucked, right? But I learned how to do the multi-action function. And it's the same thing with the wrap-up. I hit the button once, it shifts over my camera, mutes my mic, so I'm no longer on camera. I'm still on the Zoom, but that gives me time to click on the Zoom while my outro is running, and so I've got my credit rolls going through the thing, and that there's at the end it plays through all of that. It stops the stream, it stops the recording, and That's it. I mean, it's all multi-action though, in one button. Hit one button to start and stop the stream. It's really cool. Anyway, love Stream Deck. I think this one costs like 150, 160 bucks. I mean, if you do a lot of streaming, which I tend to do, then it's worth it. If you are a little techie like me and like to make improvements where you can, for example, the intro and outro screens, uh, the multi-functions where I can start the stream with one click and actually stream, multi-stream and multicast to a bunch of different places. That's a Restream thing, not a Stream Deck thing. But you can load up video recordings. You can share, like with one click of a button, I can share the Zoom call. That's how I'm able to do that. Like with one click of a button, I can share the Zoom, I can share my screen, um, the webcam, the FAQs. So for example, I can go here and we can talk FAQs. And you can see that Adrian says hello from London, and this is because it's pulling directly from Restream, right? And that's the thing I'm using there, but it doesn't pull from group comments for some reason. No big deal. Still pretty handy to have that. Robert says, my inner perfectionist slows me down as well. It's like a demon that stops my progress. Well, hopefully I've given you some, and Miro says, same with me. Adrian says, yes, what I covered helps. That's good because that really came from a place of like direct experience with what you just described. And then the thinking processes behind, I can hear the conflict, you know what I'm saying? I can hear the conflict in your language, and I'm not beating you up or anything, right? I'm trying to help. If anything, I see that, and I say, I used to think like that, and I'm offering you another path, which is focus on the greater good and understand that is the perfection, right? That enables you to be the perfectionist without sabotaging yourself as a perfectionist. That's how you have to look at it. I'm telling you. And just try it. I mean, one of the things that type A's are known for is not really trying anything new or being resistant to change more than others are, let's say. However, when we do find the change, we love it, and we say, well, that's really neat. I'm going to incorporate that, and I'm going to run the shit out of it, because that's what perfectionists do, right? But we also have to learn to be open enough to those new experiences and creative enough to make those mistakes over and over again in many different places to find those winners and not let it take its toll on us and beat ourselves up, beat us up over it, or let those things beat us up, right? We have to understand that perfection is not greater than the greater good. The greater good is greater than perfection, 100%. You have to default to that. When you do, your life will completely change, I promise. John says, my main issue is that I want everything to be 100% before setting out. It's taken being here to get to understand 90% is okay. Things can be improved on as the need arises. Here's the thing, John. You've heard this, and I appreciate you sharing that because that makes a lot of sense as well. Here's the thing. If you're at 90%, and let's say you stay at 90%, and I want you to answer me truthfully, okay? I'm not going to pick on you. But I have to bring this up because it's a lot of people are thinking this. Okay, there's a lot of people that are thinking this. I promise you, because I know I've thought it. All right, and here's what I've come up with. I'll give you what I come up with here in a second. But if it stays at 90% and never makes it to 100%, would you be able to live with that? If everything you did was at 90%, everything you did from now to the day you die was at 90%, could you live with that? And could you live with that, I mean, not could you, by live with that, I mean very literally. Like you're not going to commit suicide over something like that, right? If you knew, like some people, the very thought of just 90% of everything for the rest of their life, they would probably try to commit suicide because they feel like, well, if I'm never going to see 100% on everything, what's the point? Because that's how stuck on the idea of perfection they are, right? So my question to you is to get the answer from you, to gauge on how stuck on perfectionism you are, right? And how maybe open or not open you are to the idea of the greater good, right? So Will it cost you your life if everything is 90%? That's what I need to know. In other words, do you have to have 100% win in there? What if nothing was ever 100%? Which, by the way, here's a spoiler alert, nothing really is, ever. This is why so many type A's are unfulfilled even when they get to the big bucks. Is because they feel like, man, I didn't hit, yeah, I got all these millions. I didn't hit that 100%. Who the, come on, guys. Who cares? I say that as a type A. That's hard for me to say. Who cares? I care, actually. But at the same time, I'd much rather see you with the millions of dollars and acceptance and have this acceptance of what you've accomplished for everyone else too, not just yourself. Think about all your clients. Think about all the consumers. I mean, your family, right? The people you're able to impact their lives with the greater vision, right? Greater good equals greater vision. That's the path, right? Can you achieve that with perfectionist or perfectionism? No, you cannot. You cannot. Good luck. And I hate saying the word you can't. So instead, I'll say the odds of you doing that are not something I would bet on in Vegas because they're so shitty that the odds are most likely that you're not going to make it. You're not going to be the one in God knows how many millions that will make it. It's like the lottery. Good luck, right? Do people win the lottery? Yes. Do you want to really play the lottery for years and years and years? That's the equivalent to what we're talking about. Do you really want to go after, chase after that 100% and not ever hit it your entire life and then feel like a complete failure for your entire life? That's how you become unfulfilled, even if you hit the big bucks. So yeah, you can hit the big bucks. Harder to do, much, much harder to do. And you're going to accomplish it usually much, much later in life, as opposed to greater good now leads to immediate, right? Instant gratification almost, right? It leads to results towards the greater vision. Greater good leads to the greater vision. So again, John says I could live with it inside me. I would know I need to improve it, but I get the point. 900,000 is almost as good as a million. Exactly. That's that whole 90% of something is better than 100% of nothing. Now, you're not always going to have goose eggs. You'll probably have a few things you can do at 100%, but will they all add? Will you have enough of those in a short amount of time frame enough to produce the results that you can get with this with just 90%? Shit, 70%. I've seen people go out of the gate with 30, 40% and increase over the 2, 3 weeks up to 80, 90 and stay at the 90% range and do better than, and you want to know how they do it, they come screaming out of the gate. They don't care about making the mistakes. They don't care because maybe they don't have time to care, right? Maybe they don't have the luxury of caring, right? It's another thing type A's don't realize we should be grateful for actually, is that we have the luxury and time to think in the way of, well, I want this to be the best it can possibly be. That's good on you, right? That means you got a good head on your shoulders, you got a good heart, but you can't let it be the double-edged sword, right? To where it's the enemy of getting anything done, right? Greater good. It's got to be about the greater good, 100%. So yeah, 90 to me, the understanding of 90% of everything is better than 100% of nothing. I mean, that's more than enough for me to commit and easily commit and never waver from trumping my perfectionist tendencies at every level in every aspect of my life, I might add, for the greater good. There's times where somebody mispronounces a word. And sometimes I'm laughing, not laughing at them more than I am laughing at the way it sounds and how silly it is. Again, perfectionist, right? But in a lot of cases, I just let them, especially if I don't know that person, I let them continue on, right? Unless it becomes a repeated word, and then it's kind of like I need to pull somebody off to the side and let them know that they probably, kind of like telling a friend they got something stuck in their teeth, you know? If you see something stuck in somebody's teeth and then it all of a sudden disappears, that means it went away, right? If it's still there after 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you probably want to say something to them off to the side in private, right? Or catch them on the low down with like, hey, you know, take care of that. Um, but in most cases, I let it slide, right? That's not a perfectionist. A perfectionist would not allow himself or herself to let that slide ever, ever, right? Very, very strict about that kind of stuff. However, I say, the greater good. They're on a roll. Let's see where they go with it. So what they didn't get that word right? So what they didn't do that? Where are they headed with it? Their thought processes. And what's cool about that is because they were allowed to go uninterrupted, or not even just interrupted. Most times I'm more polite than just interrupting. I'll let them continue their thought process. If it's especially if it's something I haven't heard before, right? And it ends up taking us to a place that I never would have thought in a good way, right? Conversation wise and idea wise, because my creative thoughts get going, right? There's a lot to be said about that kind of stuff. And again, that's on a personal level in communication, right? That's not what I get done or what I don't get done or naps, right? So there's all kinds of different ways that way of living can impact you positively, um, and the others around you. They're going to really appreciate seeing that in you. Like, man, you know, it's like you you get all the comments and compliments that I get, which are, "Do you sleep?" Yes. Boy, it's hard to tell. Do you get phased by anything? Yeah. Sometimes you can tell that. I know you can. Other times you're like, man, I don't understand. Is he a machine? Is he a robot? Is he an alien? What? Um, Now I know there are moments, again, like I said, that you can see that I am, but especially doing a daily live stream, you can really tell that I am human and it's unscripted. But there are a lot of times where, without these kinds of daily live streams, you're going to wonder, man, does he sleep? How does he come up with this stuff? Um, who's helping him? This is, you know, it can't just be him, um, that comes up with this kind of stuff. There's all kinds of things that people come up with. I take them as compliments. Um, but it'll be interesting what people come up with and the quality of life you live and how easygoing you become. Now, there are some things that I'm unforgiving on, for example, and that I set absolute rules on. But it's for you guys mostly, right? And the protection of you guys. So, for example, that Joker we had in here the other day uh, posted negative comments. I mean, we're just not going to allow stuff like that, right? It's been said and stated that way from day one, and I've enforced it, and it will be enforced from now till the end of time for your protection, 100%. Because I know what it's like to be in that state of mind and be wondering, especially if you're already dealing with that whole 90%, 100% thing. The last fucking thing you need to be hearing about is some guy who's doesn't believe, or his belief systems and sets or and ideas are just nowhere near in alignment with what the overall objective is for everybody, right? In the group. So we actively enforce those things, and there's no give on those. There's no give on those. There's several things like that where there's just no give whatsoever, and that's not necessarily a perfectionist thing more than it is um, examples of, there are things that are absolutes in life for sure, and then there are many, many more things that are not absolute that you can be flexible on, that you can learn from, and that you can help others learn as well. So anyway, figured I'd share that with you. Um, it's I'd much rather have the 90% the rest of my life. 100%. 100%. I'd much rather have the 90%. That's funny. All right. Adrian's asking, let's make this last call for questions, because I'm not seeing anybody in the Zoom room. I did post the link in the group there in case anybody wants to come in. Looks like Facebook's going to allow me to pin it. That's great. So that's pinned to the top of the Facebook comments in the main group. If you're tuning in from another source, then I did post that into the comments section. You should be able to see that and come in live and ask questions. I'm more than happy to help you. Adrian says, question on retention. When you say 75 to 80% is good, over what period is that? In other words, after how long do they drop off on average, even with weekly phone calls and good retention? Can you expect them to top up once, twice? Pest control is my vertical, so in that area specifically, I appreciate it's not an absolute, but just a rule of thumb is all. And those calls that keep them engaged, they are done by whom when we sack ourselves from doing at the onboarder? Great questions. Okay, so first off, when I say 75 to 80%, that's usually out of the gate. If you have applied the client engagement sequence and you do at least weekly calls with your clients that are meaningful, like you need to pre-arrange topics to have discussions with your clients, especially when they're new, right? You can work out what those are based on the fact that they're new and they need a walkthrough, for example, of the platform. That would be a good conversation to have maybe over a couple of weeks. The types of calls they're getting, the types of calls they want. These are all topics that you can follow up with your clients on a weekly basis with via the phone. As far as what period or client lifetime value, I'll tell you right now, there's a reason why we say I'm looking for someone to do business with over the next 20 to 30 years. And so 75 to 80% retention out of the gate, you're looking to keep those people at least a few years. It depends on how long they stay in business, but if you're driving good phone calls and call volume to them and they never quit you, or if they quit you and then quickly realize they screwed up and they start back with you, then you're going to have clients that stick around for years and years if you engage them this way. So your retention remains very, very high over a course of years. And that's pretty much across every vertical because, again, it comes down to the engagement and how much you actually care about their business and how much you know about their business and their industry. It makes a difference. Makes a difference big time. You can expect them to top up way more than once or twice based on that, and that includes your vertical. Um, it is a rule of thumb. It is not an absolute. The calls that keep them engaged, and again, they're not calls to keep them engaged. It's calls to engage with them, okay, which keeps them engaged. Okay, let's make sure we get that right. That may seem like a perfectionist thing, but that's more of a we got to get that right because that the way you worded it's not quite accurate, and you're approaching it all wrong if you're looking at it that way. And there's a difference. Um, they're done by the customer support. Initially, for brand new clients, it's done by the onboarder, and then it's passed off to the customer support. So when you start out and you hire your onboarding / customer support person that does both of those positions, and later it's split into two, right? Then you'll have two different people handling that at some point, but to start with, it'll be one person, right? It'll be the same person when it's passed off. And so it would start with a brand new client would start with an onboarder for those weekly calls, and then move to the or be graduated to the customer support person. Okay, and if your agency's small enough to where there's only that one person in both of those positions, then they're not going to move anywhere. They're just going to be talking to the same person, at least until you make the next hire for the customer support staff from the onboarder, and then you would have two people. And then that person would move over to the customer support staff when they're ready for it. So good questions. Good questions. Any other questions? Any other questions? This is last call. We're making this last call. If you are good to go, type good to go so that I know everybody's good to go. I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner. I thought of that the other day and it worked out pretty well. Instead of just sitting here with a bunch of dead air. If you're good to go, type in good to go so that I know you're good to go. And then we'll go. If you have questions, ask away. I'll be more than happy to help you out. A lot of good questions and things covered today for sure. Okay. And we'll use the good to go as attendance as well. I think that's a good idea. I think that's a great idea. Just teasing. All right, let's see here. I got Scott. I got Adrian. Where's it? There we go. I've got Muhammad. I've got Tim Blank. Garrett. Gotcha. John Smith. Gotcha, sir. And I'm only missing Robert Cornack, unless I missed it. Let me go back and check. Yes, I'm missing Robert. So, Robert, this is the attendance test. Are you in or are you out, sir? Got it right. Good to go. Almost good to go. Just had to jumped into Zoom. Okay, that's fine. I'll still mark you as present. And I will admit you to the Zoom room. And while that's tuning up, let me check the rest of the comments. Again, last call for questions while Robert comes into the room here.
Hello, William. Can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I don't really have too much to ask. Just little things I could use some help with.
Okay.
The first being, I'm a little nervous. So I set up my client one campaign. I have like a bunch of ad groups. So, and the keywords are relevant. The ads are pretty relevant to the keyword. So that's pretty good. The only thing I'm scared of is I don't want to send them a bunch of like junk calls because I don't know. I kind of want to make a good impression and send some like really good calls, no matter what the cost. Like honestly, like if it goes, if the cost is like if my cost is high, it wouldn't even bother me because I know he has like a lot of locations. So I want to just send him like really good stuff. Is there any like pointers or tips you could give me?
Absolutely. How many clients do you have?
One, just
right.
one.
And so what's the problem? What's the root of your problem right now?
I am scared to lose my only client, I guess.
No, that's a symptom, right? That's a result of the root, right? Think deeper.
Scarcity mindset that I don't have enough clients.
That's part of it, and you're getting warmer with that I don't have enough clients statement. Scarcity mindset tends to be either a default mode or a mode that people slip into as a symptom. So it's hard to tell if that's the problem. I highly doubt it because you were smart enough and savvy enough to go and get a client. So I don't think that's going to be your problem either, at least as a default. Obviously, your mind can go there just like anybody else, but that's not it. You're warmer with that you didn't have enough clients. What do we call that? It starts with a D. It's a lack of what?
Maybe doubt.
No, a lack of D. A lack of what? Starts with a D. Well, let's look at it this way. How many clients do I recommend you start with, and why, and how fast?
A client a day, basically.
A client a day,
or to shoot for.
As a good marker. And then when you go on a blitz, right, or something like the December Dash, why do I encourage you to go after multiple clients in one sitting or in a few sittings inside of 1 week? Why do I recommend you do that?
So you can, I guess, set up all their campaigns at once.
Right, but what good does that do?
You can put like a lot more effort into the campaign because you kind of are duplicating it 5 times. So
nope.
No.
Nope. If you have one campaign running, how many data sets do you have?
Oh, I see. So you get more data from multiple clients and then you could optimize faster.
Right, which means what for all of your clients?
They all get better results.
Rising tide raises all ships, yes?
Yep, yep.
You're trying to He-Man one ship yourself, right? As opposed to letting the tide do the work. Now, you
Yes.
can do that, but you're going to break both your arms and both your legs and maybe your back, right? Especially every day that goes by that you don't have multiple clients coming in to help you increase your data set. This is provided you have not run a national campaign prior, right, with any kind of optimization at all on a campaign. Even if you ran a Flyent campaign, it's still one data set in one local area. It's not the same as a national campaign. The national campaign is going to provide you with tons more optimization data a lot faster. I don't like running those kinds of things because the payouts and all that kind of stuff, but it is a fast way to get good data. However, with what I teach you in terms of effectiveness on getting clients, you should have no problem pulling in multiple clients. If you're in the state that you're in mentally right now, you're not in client getting mode, are you?
Um, well,
The answer is no.
not really. No,
100%. No,
no.
not really my ass. The answer is no, 100%. And see, you got to be honest with yourself. Not to me. Be honest with yourself, dude. Like if you're having difficulty even just coming to terms with, I'm not, this has put me into a not getting clients mode. You need to be honest with yourself, right? Not with me.
Yeah.
It's your business, dude. Right? I'm just trying to show you what your business is showing you, which is, hey, your business says it needs more data sets, it needs more clients, and you just happen to be in the mindset of, well, I'm not okay with that or comfortable with that because I got this one client and I'm squeezing so tight, right?
Yeah.
All right, good luck with that, right? Or you could loosen the grip a little bit and accept about what I'm about to tell you because there's a few things I got to tell you. The first is yes, multiple clients, multiple data sets, that's all going to help. Second, the idea of spending more to drive better quality as opposed to managing your client's expectations initially, one outweighs the other in terms of the greater good versus perfectionism, right? Perfectionism is, I got to send him the best fucking calls I could send him ever. I don't care what the fuck it costs, at least initially, right? That's
Yeah.
that's perfectionism. Good luck, right? Versus the greater good, which is I'm going to focus on multiple data sets for multiple clients out of the gate as much as possible, like William teaches, not because he teaches it, but because it works. And then with those data sets, I will optimize the campaigns, thereby increasing call quality almost immediately while not having to raise all my costs. And on conversely, on the other side of the coin, I will make sure that the clients are expectations are managed to know that you will get some shit calls. I don't care how long you and I are in business, but you're not going to pay for them. That's the fucking important point. And when you say that over and over and over and show them that through the dispute system, no problem. You follow? They're going to love you after
Yep.
that. So now it's working to your advantage, not your disadvantage, by letting loose of the perfectionism. I'm glad we had this conversation, so thanks for coming on. By letting loose of the perfectionism and grabbing a hold of the greater good, you're going to have more clients, deliver better results for lower costs, and happier clients to boot. Versus one client who may not be as happy, you're definitely not making any money or very little money on it, right? And does that motivate you to go and get 5 more? No, it does not. Like,
No.
you get my point. So there's a lot that plays into that. People that tend to go that perfectionist route will take months and months before they go from a few clients, like 3 or 4 clients or 5 clients, to 30 or 40. They'll take months and months and months before they do that because they're trying to get everything dialed in. There's some people that do exactly what I just described at 0 or 1, and they get stuck in that. There's some people that it hits everybody at different levels. There's some people that hit it at every level. With 0 clients, they hit it and they got through it, and then they hit it at 5 clients, and then they hit it at 10 clients. Because they feel this overwhelm, and that's just them latching onto their perfectionism as opposed to the greater good. And also understanding that you've got somebody here like me that has been through that and has gone through those experiences personally in a lot of cases, almost every case, and has not just solutions for you, but things that are very effective for working with what you have, which is type A for sure. There's nothing wrong with it either, by the way. It's just what we have to work with, right? Work with it, not against it. And you're struggling mentally with things because you're working against it, not with it, right? I understand you want to deliver the best for your client, and I know you will, right? You can do that in another way. There's another way to do that that is not going to cost you your sanity, your money, your time as much, and will allow you to build a business much, much faster than most people even dream of, you know. And if you need proof of that, take a look at Art and others. But Art's one of the most recent examples of exactly what I just described. He'd be the first to probably tell you that he's a recovering perfectionist now. And a lot of what he's accomplished is because he was able to let go of some of these ideas that govern, like I said, those belief systems that govern the perfectionist streak in us as type A's. So I hope that helps. Is that jiving with you?
Yeah, I get it. I'm too focused on being perfect instead of just sticking with the program.
Well, you say sticking with a program. I mean, I guess that's one way to look at it. I mean, if okay, if you were to look at this and you heard what I just told you, right? Forget that it's in the program and just use your own logic. Does having more data sets help you optimize faster for all clients involved?
Yeah, of
And the
course,
more
because
and the more
I'll
you
pick up
feed
all
that,
the junk.
right, and the more you feed the beast, right, the bigger the beast gets, right?
Yeah.
Like Little Shop of Horrors, right? With the Feed Me Seymour, right? That big ass plant. You keep feeding him and he gets huge, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you want it to get huge though in this case. That plant maybe not so much, but the business, the agency, you want it to get big. Now, with that size comes the ability to how do I say this? The ability to deliver more, right, to your clients. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. Um, but you're going to have a budget that uh, can be used across the board in any way you see fit, and surplus to do so. And then you're going to have clients that are happy with the results because they're not paying for junk. Even if they get a junk call, they know they're not paying for it, and they're getting the kind of calls that they do want, and they're noticing that week over week they're getting more of the kind of calls that they want anyway. I mean, dude, that's and you told them that was going to happen the whole time. That your biggest problem right now is that you are at one client, not that that you're not going to be able to deliver for that one client. There's not a doubt in my mind that you will. I mean, and if you are doubting about that at some point, a week or two from now, come on to a call and we'll optimize your campaigns real time. No problem. Like, that's what I mean by when I say, there's the greater good. I'm always going to be here for that kind of stuff where we can walk through that and get you set straight. But I'll tell you right now, dude, if I were to walk through an optimization level with you on one campaign, but you had
It would make
five.
sense.
Well, no. If I were to do that with one campaign, it would make sense. And you would learn a lot. But if you then could take it on your own at home there after the call that we just did that on and apply it to 5 more campaigns right then and there, right? Big money versus just having that one like where you're at right now. So I'd say between now and over the next 2 weeks, that should be your focus. Manage expectations of that client. Remind them that they're not paying for junk calls anyway. Not that you expect a ton to come through. Be proactive on the negatives. Be in there every day, every other day, at least to start, and go after clients hard and fast, man. Now is the perfect time. I mean, you're talking tomorrow afternoon, folks, to Thursday afternoon. Shit, you should be picking up 5, 10 clients this week. And if that's not where your head's at, you're probably not going to do well in the business long term. At least
that was
for some time.
I have the dialer set up for tomorrow and all that, but that was my I don't know. It's like I want to make sure I can, and I had an affiliate campaign set up, And I was driving calls. I got a bunch of junk, obviously, and it just gave me more negative keywords. But I don't know. I guess it's just anxiety that
Let
really
me
shouldn't be there.
let me ask you something. Have you ever been tested in life where you had to rise to the occasion?
Yeah,
That's
and it
what
just
this is.
worked.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
It very much is. It's not exactly a leap of faith, but it is going to require you to level up for sure. Do I think that you're
Hmm.
capable of that? Yes, I do. More so than most. Why then have you not kind of come to terms with that? I guess is the thing, right? That's what you need to ask yourself and get real with. And you got to be. I'll tell you right now, man. You got to get. You got to the self integrity thing. You got to work on that. It's got to be 100%. No, whether you want to hear it or not, you need to tell yourself. It can't be a kind of, yeah, that's more or less. No, no, no. My head is not in a good place, and this is why. And what can I do about it? Like that's you've got to go into problem solving mode on that stuff. Otherwise, you're gonna self sabotage at every level and wonder why shit's moving so slow all the time, as opposed to uh, getting stuff straight. Like you say, yeah, I got the dialer set. I can hear in your voice, you're not ready though, right?
Hmm.
Mentally, not
Yeah.
yet.
Hmm.
It sounds kind of like you should probably take a power walk. I'm not joking. Where you're in that state of, okay, he's given me this and that. And I need to think about that and process that and work through that. And then do the math on, like, have you optimized for your one client yet?
No,
No, not yet. How long has the
no.
campaign been running?
I haven't started it. I just set it up.
Okay. Okay. So I would expect that you're going to optimize it at least twice this week.
Hmm. I
Okay.
mean, after every day at least.
Right. So
That's what I'm
what's the
thinking.
difference between optimizing for that one client versus optimizing for another nine this week?
It's the same. The
It's the
same thing.
exact same. So now your mind should be going to, fuck, he's right. 5, 10, 15 clients. It's not about get with the program because you don't ever hear me say shit like that. You hear me say stuff like follow the training, sure, but you don't have a problem with that. Right now, it's more of the perfection versus the greater good, right? Definitely.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I would say just get right with that. Come to terms with that. You're going to get pumped at some point when you do that, and make sure you're ready to go tomorrow afternoon because I'm telling you, man, you could be not just on the board, but like on the board, like on top of the board, if
Hmm.
you play this week right. Seriously.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
then every change you make, every optimization you make for each campaign applies 9, 10 times, or how many ever clients you have, 15 times every time you make a change and improvement. That's how things get exponential very, very quickly on a local client level, as opposed to just running a national campaign. So between that and what you already know about the business, the fact that you've run an affiliate campaign and you have negatives at least initially to start with, uh, already tells me your call quality is not going to be maybe the best, but it's also not going to be the worst either, and that you
Hmm.
will drive good calls to them out of the gate. And if you have your focus in the right place to acquire more clients, you're going to have more data, and that in turn also increases call quality by default just by optimizing like normal. Um, it's a non-issue when you shift from perfectionist to greater good.
Hmm.
It's only an issue if you're trying to perfect it before you know what I mean? You just
Yeah. I
got to
got
rise to the occasion.
you.
No
Hmm.
other way to really say that.
Okay. Um. Yeah, that was it, I guess. Thanks for the help, man. For
You're
real.
welcome, always. Um, it's what we do is not. How do I say this? What we do is simple. It's not rocket science. It's not always the easiest. It's not always the easiest of things to do in any at any level of what we do or teach. However, the rewards on the other end are significant compared to almost everything else out there. Maybe not everything, but almost everything. And it's more than enough for me to be able to confidently say to you and to everybody else that's listening that if you stay the course and keep your head on the in a good place on what it is you're doing and why, and what it's going to yield as a result based on expectations that have been set by myself, by other people that have gone through and come before you, you'll start to see uh, what comes of that, right? I mean, there's so many examples of why getting multiple clients out of the gate is going to be the way to go. In fact, very few people I've ever seen that get a couple of clients do well enough and motivated well enough to continue getting clients if that's where they stayed for the first couple of weeks. So within your first couple of weeks, if all you do is 2 clients, 3 clients, that's probably where you're going to be for the next 6 to 8 months, unless you snap out of it. Seriously. And most people, for some reason, it takes them 6 to 8 months to snap out of it because they're like, man, this shit's just not moving. I know it works. I just I can't bridge the gap. I can't figure it out. I can't, perfectionist. Stop. Let it go. Greater good. Got to look at the greater good. And then you'll blow up. I mean, that has happened to people. There are names that like that I've made into household names from years of working with different people. And over the years, household names you would know or recognize that have done exactly what I just described, where 6 to 8 months went by, they were stuck at 3 clients, couldn't fucking figure it out, come back and say, hey, I know this shit works. I just don't know what I'm not doing or doing. And I helped them with this because they were ready. In other words, they were ready to hear it at that time. Now I'm working with everybody now on a short circuit level to where I'm trying to help you cut out that 6 to 8 month bullshit, right? Of waste of time, waste of your time, not mine as much. But yeah, I'm still here though, right? I'm always going to be here. So it's not really a waste of my time more than it is yours, because what could you have done in those 6 to 8 months, right? I've seen people go from 4 clients to 70 clients in a 4-month period once they got their head out of their ass after a 6 to 8 month spat of what I just described. Don't be that guy. That's all. That's all. Mm-hmm. Let go of the perfectionist. Let go of it. And I don't mean completely. I don't mean completely. I mean work with it. But default to the greater good. 100%. Mm-hmm. That's where it's got to be. That's where it's got to be. All right?
Yeah, that's great advice, man. Great advice. Thank you.
It's only great if you take it.
I feel my anxiety just dropping. Like when I got on the call, it's like 100, or before I even got on the call, because I was anxious, and now it's like lower and lower and lower, and now it's finally getting to me. Just relax. Good. It worked for all these other people. It's going to work for you, and clients are more important than focusing on one.
Well, yeah, and by the way, the D word I was looking for was diversification. So you diversify with multiple clients, right? If you have 10 clients and you lose one, how much of your business have you lost by percentage?
10%.
10. That's not good, right? What happens if you have a fluke and you lose 2? Ouch, right? Mm. What if you have 20 and you lose 1? Not as bad, 5%. You can recover from that very easily. Right. I wish I had the video meme right now of Tiger King talking about, I will never financially recover from this. Right. Because that's exactly what I would describe on a 10%, 20% hit that low or that early in the game. Right. Can really make a significant impact, not just on your business, but on how you feel about your business. Right. You lose one client in 100. You're like, I got 99 clients and that client ain't one. Right. Yeah. Versus losing 1 out of 10, it's like, I will never financially recover from this, right? Like, that's totally different mindset. And one makes you want to go out and go get like 100 more, and one makes you want to go out and get nobody, not even go out, right? So that's kind of the loop you're stuck in right now. I get that, but I want you to see that for what it is. It's the perfectionist in you. There's nothing wrong with you, by the way. And I say that from personal experience. There's nothing wrong with us type A's. It's just we let the perfectionist, that double-edged sword, cut us, right? That's what a double-edged sword will do. It will cut you. Whereas if we just learn to let go of that, at least just enough to always have the greater good trump whatever the priorities are for the perfectionist streak in us. That's when you see the magic happen, like your magic, you know. And that's when, like I said, you get all the compliments and everything. My God, do you sleep? How do you do that? How did you come up with that? That's genius. Uh, you're the greatest. Uh, Best I've ever worked with. All that kind of stuff. You'll get all that stuff. And at some point,
Mhm.
then we'll have to address and talk about, and this will happen, guarantee you. At some point, we're going to have talks about what you do when somebody fucks you over, what you do when somebody doesn't give you your due credit. Um, there are things you can do and things that you just can't do. There's things that you're just going to have to accept and move on, and that really hurts the perfectionist mentally in a lot of ways. Um, there are things that need to be said publicly to protect people, everybody else, basically. And you've done your part. You need to let it go at that point. And then there are um, nothing. There are things that you can do nothing about, absolutely nothing about. All right. Knowing the difference between those two and acting on them or not acting in some cases um, is how you manage your sanity, right? But I guarantee you, the bigger and more successful you get, the more you'll run into that kind of stuff. 100%. No matter what you do, no matter what business you run. So in this agency, I guarantee you'll have that. I've seen it happen. Um, I've also seen people, like I said, grow a big agency and beat the problem as opposed to deal with the problems. So don't be that guy either. But there's a ton of different things to cover from here on that deserve your focus more than this whole perfectionist thing about that one client, right?
Mhm. Yep.
100%.
Yep.
And by default, you'll end up delivering better for that client than you ever would have if you'd have just focused on the perfectionist side. 100%.
Yeah, that's true. I'll
So
pick up the negatives 10 times as fast, literally. If I have
yeah, you
10
will.
clients.
You will.
Yeah.
You will. And then keep in mind, I'm around. I mean,
Hmm.
there's value in that. 100%. There's a ton of value in that because I'm going to be able to point out right away, hey, this, and that. You should be also looking into this and that, and that'll get your mind going and help you out even more, right?
Oh, yeah. One thing, what happens after December Dash? We still have the group. The regular group has
Yep, two
two
calls a
calls.
month. Yep, two calls a month on the 14th and 28th of every month at 12
Hmm.
p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
And then the mentorship group
The
is it's
mentorship
similar, right?
the mentorship group is every Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Okay,
Yeah,
everybody.
it's weekly sessions every Monday.
Okay. All right. So you're still gonna be here. That's
Still
good.
going to be here, maybe less
Yeah.
so, but like I said, I have taken note of how impactful these kinds of sessions are on an increased basis, let's say, or an increased level. Um, and going forward, I will be finding some ways to implement that to everybody's advantage, right? Without having to have my ugly face on live stream all the time. I will definitely find ways to leverage that for your guys' advantage, 100%.
Hmm.
So I gotta stop saying 100%. For some reason, I'm saying that a lot. I think it's because we talked about percentages a couple times, and then next thing you know, I'm saying 100% all the time.
And it's also perfection.
I know, right?
That's hundred
I'm gonna
percent.
say
Yeah.
most definitely. That's gonna short circuit and
That
replace my.
works. That works.
See how we get. I'm telling you, man. It's we're all human, and if there's a type A, classic type A, I would definitely be it. There's a difference in how I operate as a type A though than most type A's, to where most people see me as like, I don't see you as a type A, and then they're like, oh no, wait a minute, that was very type A of you, and I'm like, exactly. And then but why? How are you? Why? What made you think to do that, or how'd you adjust course on that? And it's like, well, like people are trying to figure it out, and I'm giving you guys I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom, I'm giving you the answers, and it all comes down to letting go of the perfectionist and understanding the greater good is what gets priority. It's a life change for sure, But when you do that, you're no longer fighting the perfectionist in you. It's like you recognize that it's there. It's part of you. It's always going to be part of you. You're going to wake up with it. You're going to go to sleep with it. It's always going to be there, right? The choices are what make the difference. How we choose to deal with and live with and work with and use to our advantage, ultimately, the perfectionist in us. How do we do that, right? There are times where I'll give you an example, and then I'll let you go because I don't want to keep you all day. There are times where I say, I've got this problem, I need to solve it. And I say to myself, I say, self, is it likely that I'll come up with a solution to this? And if the answer is I don't know, then I prepare to spend some time on it. If the answer is pretty confident I can find something within the next 30 minutes, half an hour, or an hour or so, maybe a couple hours if I get turned around. But yeah, I could have an answer on that, right? Then I dig in right away, no problem, and I don't worry about the time frame either. I don't have to worry about extending the time frame. And then there's times where I go, let's say I found the solution. Yep, I found the solution. Wow, I found it in 20 minutes. Unreal. Is that too good to be true? That's the questions I start asking myself. Is this really the solution? I'll confirm it. Yep, it's confirmed. So now I'm 30 minutes in. I've still got time in my head of like making sure this is the end all be all for what I'm looking at, for what I'm looking for. So I'll do some research on some of the alternatives and alternative solutions as an example, and I'll say I'll vet them as well. And so maybe I end up with multiple solutions. Maybe I only end up with two, maybe just the one. And then I go even further than that, and I say, is this as good as it gets? Like, is this solution by itself not just good enough, but is it the best that I can do? That's the perfectionist that kicks in. So now it's like, hey, I'm half an hour in. I found the best two options out of the 6 or 7 that exist or that are most commonly known for what I need or for what I'm teaching on. For example, let's say I'm developing a new systems or a set of processes, and so I'm looking at these 2 solutions. They're the best. I've vetted them twice. All the others are not horrible, but they're also not these 2, right? They stand out far and above. But are they the only ways or the only things I need in order to be the absolute best it can be? In other words, can I make them better with an additional 5 or 10 minutes? Absolutely. I can pull from here, 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 and here, put this together and structure it in such a way that's not only is it just almost as easy as it is without those things, but it can be automated or semi-automated, right? And I can show people and teach people how to build that in almost the same amount of time it would take them if they were to do learning curve themselves on just that one thing, just that one solution. So now they've got a multi-tiered solution that's, again, still not perfect, but a damn sight better than it was even 5-10 minutes ago, which is where most people would have stopped. Most people would have stopped back at the I found the solution, right? As opposed to, is this as good as it gets? So there's a time for the perfectionist in you to come out and do his thing or her thing, right? There's a time for that. And then there's a time to tell him, shut the fuck up so you can get back to work and do what you got to do. I'm telling you, man, there's no other way to really say that.
I know what you mean, because
okay.
When this is way back, like November 20, when I was picking even before that, when I was picking the niche, I was like, I had a list. What did William recommend? This, and this. Boom, boom. Oh, I picked this one. Then like 3 days go by. I don't take any action because I got to make sure it's perfect. And then finally, like, okay. And then same thing with the domain. This domain's good. This domain's good.
Every level. Every level, right?
And then it's like 2 days go by. Good thing no one bought it. And then I picked the domain. And then, yeah, so I guess it'll never go away.
It'll never go away. And that's good because it's called consistency, right? At least you're a consistent mofo. That's how I look at it. It's something to be grateful for, Robert. Like, it's not something to be beating yourself up. Oh, I'm a type A. Oh, I always have to have it fucking perfect. Ooh, ooh, and if it's not, boo hoo. And I take my ball and I go home. No, that's what most type A's do. Don't be that guy.
Mhm.
Be the guy that
Mhm.
says, you know what? I'm a type A and I'm okay with it. Like, it really is about getting comfortable being who you actually are, not not having to feel like you have to apologize for it or come onto a call. Like, even with me, especially me being a type A and seeing it in you and saying, hey, like, I see you for what you are, who you are. uh, Been there, done that, right? That whole thing. But
Mhm.
for you to come on the call and say things like kind of, when what you really mean is, and 100%, and
Is no
is
way.
no fucking way, right? Is exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't have said that any better if you'd have screamed it at me, you know. Um, Not that I'm asking you to, but I'm just saying there's a big difference in how you're actually voicing. So that's the self integrity thing, right? Not that you're dishonest, but you're not being 100% honest with yourself, right? I take you as a trustworthy person. I take everybody at their
You,
word until they prove me
I'll,
wrong. But self integrity is something that's within. So
mhm.
for you to say kind of, it tells me that your self integrity is not in alignment with what's actually going on, and that creates that conflict, or
I'll,
amplifies it at the very least.
I'll tell you where that comes from. You ever spend time with someone who's, let's say,
A negative Nancy.
no, not negative, more like if you are fully honest and you go 100% integrity with them, they're gonna like, what? Like you think that, or you that's what you believe? So you have to tone yourself down,
Yep.
and then you build a habit of toning yourself down, and then it's like the person's gone, and now it's like, wait, I'm not even myself anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to find yourself. I can understand that. And what I will also tell you is, as time goes on, as a type A that learns what I'm telling you about the greater good, you're going to get to a point where you're just not going to continue to have people like that in your life at all, like a zero tolerance
Mm-hmm.
policy for that, because someone that thinks that way is too judgmental to be in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care if it's your mother. I don't care if it's your father. I don't care if it's somebody you've loved your entire life. Um, if they're going to be like that, you cannot have them around you that much at all, if
Mm-hmm.
at all. And I hate
I
saying
had
that, but it's the truth.
I had actually a friend, like the guy who came in the group and like was being negative. I had a friend like that. So
Hmm.
me and my friends, we had like a group chat. There was like 4 or 5 of us, and we just talk about random stuff. And this one kid would always say, "Oh, that's never gonna work. Haha, good luck trying that." Or you say like, "What's the point of even trying? You know that's," and it was like constant. And then I would say I'm gonna do something. He would say it's impossible. Then I would take a picture of like myself doing it, or right after I did it,
Right.
and he'd keep going like it. And then I had to just block him, just totally blocked. And like my friends understood, like my other friends, they were like, "Yeah, we get it,"
Do you
and it wasn't
remember?
a big deal.
Do you
And
remember what I told you about protecting the flame?
yeah, yeah, man, yeah.
That's what
There's
it's
there's
it. That's what it is.
yeah, and some people, it's just like, I think it's like they see you doing something that they're scared to do, and then they feel scared, or I don't know, but it's
No, yeah.
definitely like the only solution is just that you have to get away like this, or step away or step back, or like they have to, it's kind of like they have to rise to you instead of you going down to them and trying to drag them up. They have to actually take the action themselves to be like, hey, I'm thinking wrong. Like they have to, what's it called, like humble themselves and be like, hey, um,
And they may never do
I
that
have to
in some
rise up. Yeah,
cases.
exactly.
They may
Yeah.
never do that. It's their choice, though. And that's kind of my point, is that you can't, if you're leveling up, you're not going to have the same people in your life, even right now, that you have in 5 years. In most
Mm-hmm.
cases, there will be some people, sure, depending on who you happen upon, you know. Um, there are some people that will be in your life for sure, but very few. Very, very few
Hmm.
will be the same. And at what degree or what level of do they play, or what part do they play in your life, um, on the business side, on your personal life? It all changes 100%. Most definitely.
Hmm.
It's not something that is supposed to stay stagnant, and it's certainly not something that's supposed to move downward, um, just because somebody else feels that that you can't do something, or that you shouldn't do that, or that's a bad idea. Um, how do they know, right? A lot of things were discovered with the greatest of intentions. A lot of horrible things were discovered with the greatest of intentions. A perfect example of that would be the atom bomb. Um, that was that's not what they were trying to do when they were splitting the atom, right? But that's what came of
Oh,
it,
hmm.
you know. But then there's things like space travel that have produced things like the zero gravity pen, and Velcro, and freeze dried food, and what else? Like, really, the technology, and the microchip, I believe, even originally stemmed from the necessity of it being inside of for space vehicles. There's a lot to be said for innovation. Do you think all that came easy? No, it came at a cost, and I don't mean just financially. I mean millions and millions and millions of man hours, and usually only one guy gets the credit, right? Like the inventor of Velcro, for example. But how many iterations were there, and how many people were working on that team? And there's
It's like
before
a
the
light
one guy,
bulb.
right? Exactly. Well, and again, I think Edison gets way more credit than he probably deserves on that. Not to bash him at all,
Hmm.
uh, but it's
Hmm.
a well-known fact and documented fact that he's stolen so many different ideas from people by um, by not acquiring them, but by absorbing them,
Hmm.
and taking their work and releasing it under the Edison name. However, his mindset was uh, second to none in terms of how he viewed things, and viewed things like failure and success, and what it took to make the light bulb work, and all that kind of stuff. But some of the things he did were despicable. Again,
Hmm.
that's on the personal life side, and in his business life, I guess, as well, in some aspects. But um, the way he viewed things absolutely is not a perfectionist thing. It was much more of a greater good, you know. Um,
Hmm.
if he was a perfectionist, do you really think he would have been able to try thousands of variations of filament for the light bulb? No, not quickly, not easily. I mean, and keep in mind, this is something that could be worked on during the night, but not as easily as during the day, because guess what didn't exist and what they were currently working on? Lights
Electricity.
for night,
Yeah.
and electricity to run the lights, right? So there was a limited amount of time in the day, technically, for them to be working efficiently and working well with that kind of stuff. And so, and he didn't accomplish that and that was the only thing he ever accomplished, right? That paved the way for him to, through name and brand recognition, to a lot of influence on a lot of different things, including how electricity was run, and why you don't hear a lot about Nikola Tesla as opposed to Edison and Edison Electric.
Hmm.
Um, that said, again, there's a whole thing about that, but and many more, not just him, but there's many more like that, um, that worked at his that worked as a clerk for him, for example, that had experiences like that. But the idea is still stands about um, the not having the loss of enthusiasm. What is it? Churchill said that success is moving from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm, something along those lines. Um, and I'm paraphrasing, but I can find that very quickly. Hold on. Churchill, failure to failure without loss of Enthusiasm. Let's see. Success is the ability to move from one failure to another without loss of enthusiasm. There you go. So that's the quote from Winston Churchill.
You know the guy who made Patron Tequila, John Paul DeJoria.
I don't know him. No.
So but he did like a video series about like entrepreneurship and stuff, and one of his things was you have to be, because he used to work for a sales company, door-to-door sales. I think it was Encyclopedias, and he says you have to be as enthusiastic on door number 100
Yep.
as door number 1.
Yeah. If you expect it to go anywhere, yeah. I mean, you don't have to be, I guess, but if you expect to succeed, right? Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about is, it's kind of like a mindset thing. You ever had these like ideas that like, it's not like internal, it's more like other people have kind of put it on you, that like, like people who have money are evil, or people who make a lot of money are like bad people or something like that.
Yeah.
You ever like, how do you, what's a good way to like
reprogram?
Reprogram. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, the first thing is, so I guess the best way I can explain this, it's a great question, by the way, Robert. It's a personal one though. So, because the only way I can really explain this is to share some things that I'm not always the most comfortable sharing, but I'm going to do my best here. Growing up, I used to hear shit like, and all the time, like not a day went by that I didn't hear multiples of these. Okay. Some of the smartest people in the world are in prison. You're not going to make it out in the world. You're never going to go to college. You are stupid. What else have I heard? There's a lot of freaks, fucks, and fools in the world. Money doesn't grow on trees. What else? Anybody with money was usually looked at or viewed as, what did they do to, like, how many graves did they have to walk over to,
or who did they rob? Who did they scam?
Not who did they rob, but who did they scam, right? Who did they,
Yeah.
They must be a real big asshole to be driving an E-Class Mercedes kind of shit, or oh, look, there's like king of all the assholes. He's in a Rolls, right? But they're admiring the car, and this comes from examples of what I grew up with, right? Not a very healthy environment, to say the least. But then at some point I said, this is one of the, and not just one person in my life, but these are some of the most unhappy sons of bitches I ever met in my life. I don't want to be like them. I don't want. So I guess the first thing that I did was I made a commitment to myself that these are perfect examples of how not to be and who not to be. And so then I started, at some point, it's not enough for you to just say, I don't want to be like them. You have to shift that into, okay, I'm going to do the opposite of whatever they do. So anytime somebody came along in an expensive car and a nice suit, it was compliment, and it was, man, I wonder what they're doing that I'm not. Right. And so where most people would start with, what do you do? Because that's what most people ask those kinds of people out about. I've been asked that before many times, and I never have the best answer, right? Because I don't like elevator pitches that much unless I'm pitching a specific product or service. But trying to explain to somebody that I run multiple companies and they're in the sales and marketing field, I do that generally so that people get the idea. Okay, I'm open to talking and telling you about it. At the same time, only if you are, right? If you were just asking to ask, then you got your answer. If you were asking because you actually want to take it somewhere, so then I can do that. But again, it comes down to I don't want to be like that. Well, then I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to compliment that person, and I'm actually going to engage them if I have a chance, or think the best thoughts at the very least. Man, they must have helped a lot of people to get to where they're at, right? Uh,
Mhm.
Money doesn't grow on trees because it literally does not grow on trees, but the meaning behind that is not accurate because you can have money today if you want it, right? The only
Yeah.
thing stopping you is you. Um, Having money is synonymous with integrity, not the other way around. Actually, it's detached if you look at it objectively. And the way I describe it is money is a tool. It's a magnifying glass. If anything, if you're a little bit of an asshole and you're broke, when you're rich, you're a big asshole. If
Mhm.
you're a kind-hearted person when you're broke, you are uh, a billionaire Mother Teresa when you're rich, right?
Mhm.
And that's the way of things. It's a magnifying glass. It's a tool. It's not who you are. It doesn't make you who you are. And so some of these were realizations, but most of it was just commitment. At least at the beginning, that I'm not going to be like that. And then, okay, what are they doing? And I need to do the opposite. If I'm not going to be anything like that, then I need to be the opposite. What does that look like? Do I think that the world is filled mostly with freaks, fucks, and fools, as my father taught me? No, I do not. No, I do not. Are there some out there? Sure, right? I think that's kind of a given. Is it Is it most of the world? No. And so with me, you'll notice you always get the benefit of the doubt. Like I don't make any qualms about that. Even here in the group, you get the benefit of the doubt on whether or not you're going to carry your negative shit in here, right? And you even get a warning if you start that up, right?
Mhm.
And then you get the boot. Then and only then you get the boot. I went so far as to publicly warn that person, that last person, and then private message them, right? Just to make sure that that's the way they wanted to go with it, knowing what they know now, kind of a thing. And did so with as little um, uh, how do I say this? As much humility as possible, as little arrogance as possible. Just straight talk. Here's the deal. Here's the matter of fact. Um, Policies. You're in violation of that. I'm. Are you saying that you're not going to comply? Right. Um, as straight as it can be. I mean, couldn't be any straighter than that. And I guess the point is, I gave that person, like I do, try to do with everybody, every chance to rise to the occasion, to rise to the level. And in most cases, it's not a me thing. It's a them thing. It's for them. It's for their benefit. It's for the group's benefit. It's not going to benefit me, at least directly even. And that's almost every case, especially when I'm in teaching mode. So reprogramming starts at the belief level and who you actually want to be and who you don't want to be. So get real clear on who those people were, what they sound like, and say, not me. Nope, not going to be that way. And
Mhm.
uh, part of it for me was also, like when I graduated high school and was told that I wouldn't graduate and then graduated high school. Uh, and then you get a pat on the back like, I'm proud of you. And it's like, no, you're not. And you get, well, what do you mean? I said, you always, I mean, how many times have you, I could lost count. How many times have you said I would never do this? And here I am with it. And now that I have it, you're saying good job, really? You know, you said I'd never go to college, and yet University of Louisville, University of Michigan, the fucking Citadel accepted me. I didn't get into my dream school, which is the perfectionist in me, right? I didn't get an appointment to Annapolis, right? But I got every other school I applied to. Every other school I applied to, I got accepted to. And not bragging, I'm just saying from hearing that you're shit every day, multiple times a day, to knowing that you're not, like, and then to have that same set of people attaboy you, you know, it kind of just pissed my Cheerios a bit about that, and I wasn't happy about that at all, and I let them all know, right, exactly what they could do with their attaboys and where they could go with them, and I was old enough to do that at that point. I made that decision. Um, but that was a very clear indicator to me that they were all hypocrites, and they were full of shit, and they didn't know what they were talking about either, in the slightest, and that I didn't even know my own full potential. How the hell could they even begin to know, right? And why do I want to be like that? I don't want to live my life like that, because that means that good people would be uh, put down by me for no reason other than to just make myself feel better, or whatever kind of good feeling they got from that, whatever kind of gratification they got from that. Um, I didn't want to live that kind of life. That was the ultimate commitment and belief system shift. Um, and it happened at a very early age with a lot of different things, but definitely on the high school graduation thing, that was a big one for me on a personal level, in a personal moment. Um, and from there, it was more about starting to realize my full potential. And that's why I say it's got to shift from, I don't want to be like that, to, okay, what do I have to do to be the opposite of what they were? Because if you don't have a good roadmap for the way to go, and you've got the opposite of, like, the reverse directions, if you will, you just have to decode it. It's still
Mhm.
directions. You just
Yeah.
got to turn the map upside down. That's all, right? I
Mhm.
mean, and
Yeah.
that I was grateful for that, because I was like, God Almighty, I may not have the best map, or the perfect picture of the way forward, like most people, and I say most people, like a lot of people were given in their life. Um, but damn if I don't have every which way that I don't want to go or don't need to go, and why, and what the result would be. I was like, I've got, if anything, like a what do you call that? Not a polar opposite, but like a black white inverse. It's like an inverse map, where it's just everywhere you don't want to go. So I'm going to go to the areas on the map that are not discovered yet. And sometimes those are going to be wrong, but most times it's going to be right. I'm okay with that. And that's, again, me letting go of the perfection, greater good, right? A lot of that comes back to that, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. I think I don't know, people like think it's like a mean thing to leave people behind, but
That's
if
guilt. That's
you're
guilt trip. That's guilt trip city.
yeah,
Don't fall for that bullshit.
yeah.
Don't fall for that. I fell for that when I was a kid. I did.
Mm-hmm.
All the time I fell for that. I
Mm-hmm.
fell for it because, you want to hear something really fucked up? My father was hearing impaired, right? I don't know if everybody knows
Mm-hmm.
that or not. My father was hearing impaired. I grew up fluent in ASL and English, sign, and I was my dad's pocket interpreter. We have a saying amongst the hearing impaired community, the deaf community, I say. Hearing impaired is the politically correct way, but uh, everybody in the deaf community says deaf, not hearing impaired. So, deaf community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just my father. My mother was a nationally certified interpreter for 30 years. My grandparents on my mother's side, tons of people on my mother's side of the family are deaf. Okay. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's something I grew up with, obviously. And we have a saying, it's actually an acronym, CODA, CODA. And to be a CODA means you're a child of a deaf adult. Now, it's not exactly a diagnosis, but I'll tell you right now, if somebody says I'm a child of a deaf adult, a CODA, I'm like, oh, I instantly have rapport with that person on so many
Mm-hmm.
different things that are
Oh, I
just
see. I see.
unspoken, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I was a pocket interpreter. I was making phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, this is circa 2000 and, well, in the year 2000, I was 16. Puberty hit for me when I was, 96, maybe? So, like, I was 12. No, I was younger than that. I was like 10, 11 years old. I was 10, 11 years old, and I was doing shit like making credit card phone calls for my dad to make payments for him, mortgage payments over the phone, because he needed to run it up to the last minute or whatever, didn't mail it in. But I was able to make those phone calls for him, and relay, uh, as a pocket interpreter. So imagine the guilt trips you get with, I want to go live with mom for a while. I came from a broken home, right? I want to go live with mom for a while. Let me live with mom, right? Imagine the guilt trips you get from that. And then on top of that,
Oh, you don't want to help me? You don't want to help
no, no,
your
no,
dad? Yeah.
not that you don't want to help dad. you're just going to leave me here? I'm going to have to do all this on my own. And what am I going to do? And this and that. And it's like, well, what the fuck did he do before? Of course, talking to a 10-year-old, a 10-year-old doesn't realize all this. It wasn't
Mhm.
until much later, obviously, that I was able to put the dots together on all that. But my dad pulled that kind of shit up to me on my right up to the practically the day I left, and didn't speak to him for 15 years. Um, I had committed to going to University of Louisville. It was 70 miles away from where I was living at the time. Um, Dad got into this state, much like what I just described, only like a baby, who was really depressed about everything. And I'm like, really, dude, like that's all you can see is what I'm good for and not the fact that I'm your son. Like, I mean, there was just, it really was difficult for me. And I fell for it. I made the commitment. I chose a university that was 10 miles away, and it was a private university as opposed to U of L. And I chose that because I knew that the it was still extremely an extremely valuable education that I would be getting. In fact, if anything, it was actually better because it was 10 to 12 students a room instead of 300, which is even better than what I had in high school, which was like 30 to a room. So
Mhm.
I was all for that, and it was closer. I was like, yeah, so I'd be able to run the business and all that kind of stuff. Um, and I didn't have to listen to my dad guilt trip the shit out of me, right? Um, and then when I feared for my own safety physically, that's when I left. And that's also when I knew I can't, I can't, I can't fall for that kind of shit again, right? And I also, what are the things I need to look forward to avoid that kind of stuff? I'm not saying my dad was the worst person on earth or anything. He certainly uh, wasn't when I knew him, right? Keep in mind when I knew him. In his later life, so I'm told, he I wouldn't know, but so I'm told he found some peace somehow. I don't necessarily believe that as much as I used to. Over the last couple of years, I found out some things that showed me he was still very much the man that I knew, and maybe older age
Mhm.
had just gotten to him and mellowed him a little bit.
Mhm.
But that's like, an old asshole is still an asshole, right?
Mhm.
In my mind.
Yeah,
So I
they
felt
just
like
can't yell as
maybe,
loud.
right. And so I felt like maybe us being apart actually not only did me a favor, but also did him a favor because it gave him an opportunity to realize that he could still do shit on his own, and that his guilt trip shit wouldn't work on everybody
Mhm.
anymore, or only work to a point on everybody. And um, I mean, yeah, he's handicapped. I get that. At the same time, though, like back then we had relay services. We still had the internet. It was by the year 2000, when I was 16 years old, it was much more common to have the bills being paid online and that kind of thing. So I wasn't needed as much for the pocket interpreter when I got to the age of 18, 19. But guess what? I was still doing a lot of that shit, and it was a real burden. It was, and it wasn't necessary. It was unnecessary, and it's not something. I'll tell you right now. If you are a hearing impaired parent, don't put your child through some shit like that. That's ridiculous. Take
Mhm.
responsibility for your own life, right? Um, and take care of your kids. Take care of your fucking kids. They're kids. Don't treat them like adults when they're not adults yet. Or, well, treat them like adults because they're small adults, yes, but don't give them adult responsibilities. That's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, that's a personal rant, but it should go to show, uh, when you're asking about the whole guilt trip thing, like you can't be, you have to call it for what it is. You have to call it for what it is. And it's funny because that's something that I've had difficulty accepting throughout my life, that I'm always going to be susceptible, more susceptible than most, let's say, to people that guilt trip. So, what do I do to work with that? Well, I use it to my advantage. And how do I use it to my advantage? I make sure that my Facebook Messenger is for friends and friends
Off.
only. Yeah, and it's
Yep.
off. It's not that I don't like talking to people. It's just that I can't be talking to everybody because I wear my heart on my sleeve and care more about you than you do. And if I do that, then I lose, you win, or you lose and I
It's
lose,
actually like
which is even
it's more
worse.
like both lose. Yeah,
Right. Right.
it's
Well,
kind of
there's
both because
there's
you can't
options.
you
There's
can't save
options.
them. Yeah.
Sometimes I can, but at what cost? And other times
Yeah.
when they fail, I still fail. We all lose, right? So it's either I
Hmm.
lose, they win, or we both lose. In which case I always lose, which means no more messenger in that way. Not
Hmm.
because I don't love
Hmm.
people, but because I have to be able to maintain and preserve my abilities to provide for you guys on calls like this right now. That's how I'm able
Hmm.
to do what I'm able to do instead of be completely drained all the fucking time, right? Because I focus my efforts on you come onto the call, Robert, I help you, right? Now you can go
Hmm.
and you can take
Hmm.
that and produce something with it. And everybody listening to the recording is going to be able to do something very similar, and or people that are on live right now. Versus me spreading myself so thin, right, that you can't even scrape me over butter or over toast. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Um,
Hmm. Yep.
there's no point in it. And so, um, that said, I mean, I am the kind of guy that give you the shirt off my back, right? Always. But I've gotten very careful on how I do that, how I do that, because there are ways that I can give back in seemingly infinite amounts, which is great. And then there are ways where I just get spread so thin that it puts me on, it lays me low for weeks, literally weeks,
Hmm.
maybe months. Um, there are it's another reason why I say partnerships are one of those things that to be uh, careful with, is because that's some of the things that can lay you low for weeks, for months. 100%, most
Hmm.
definitely, rather. Um, it's sad but true, and that's more of a personal thing. Everybody's going to have their own
I
idiosyncrasies when it
have
comes to that.
in terms of partnerships.
Yeah,
I mean, I have a lot of experience working with like team projects,
right.
um, and it's almost always one person is like, let's say it's a group of four. Let's say you just average out all of them. It's a group of four. One person does 50%.
Yeah,
Two more do about, maybe 15, 20, and then one guy does almost nothing. It's almost always like it's basically the person who cares the most does a ton of work, and then one guy's gonna see, oh, you care? Nice. I can go
I
and
can go relax.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
So
And
I'm with you on
there
that.
are
I'm with you.
dynamics, by the way. There are dynamics where, depending on the problem that needs to be solved, that's okay. Like, I'll give you an example. If you have, it's one of the reasons why we hire in the agency model that I teach you. It's one of the reasons why we hire for different positions and set positions, and that they don't deviate, because you're hiring somebody that that guy or that gal that will do that 50% and do it to their best. It's what you need for that position. Whereas if you had three other
Mm,
people that were in that same position, those three would do exactly what you just described, because that one is doing so well,
I
right?
see. I see.
Okay,
Yep.
same concept there. Um, the good news is, as long as you recognize that's the case, there are different problems that sometimes I'm the odd man out. And I know that I'm the odd man out. And so I say, I'm not afraid to speak up and say, hey guys, you've been talking, I've been listening for the last hour, and I've been taking notes. And there's not a thing that you have covered that I would not, I mean, not one thing that I could contribute, except for maybe this or that, or maybe these three things I could contribute, but they're so simple, I'll have them done in 20 minutes after I'm off of this call. I don't know what kind of value I can continue to bring this call, not because I'm not valuable, just because of the direction of the call, the task at hand, in other words. Maybe it's more advisable for two or three. So I'm willing to bow out of a conversation very quickly if I determine that I'm not as integral to the success of that mission, that particular mission. But I always make sure to state, keep me around, because maybe on the next one, I'm the lead, right? You never know.
Mhm.
And one of you or two of you can go off and do something else, or do that 10 to 20 minute thing. And of course, I deliver on the 10 to 20 minute thing. And then they're like, oh man, that was great. It was awesome. And this and that. And then sometimes they'll find other things for me to participate on the next problem, for example. But sometimes you find that consistently you're just not going to be the main contributor, right? or giving the main contribution, and that's okay too. That just means that it's just not your time to deliver on that yet, or ever maybe,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just
Mm-hmm.
depends on the task at hand. But those are project based more than problem solving. With you running the agency model, you're rarely going to run into that. And again, that's because of the way things are structured. Excuse me, on the systems and processes and hiring and training of staff and the positions that staff specifically run. They stay in their own lane. There's a little crossover here and there, but not much. And it's mostly the agency manager that you hire for and train that'll have a lot of crossover for that kind of stuff. But they'll have come to expect that at that point. So yeah, you're not going to run into that too terribly much. No, not in this business model. Personal life, however, yeah, I mean, it's always a gut punch when you have to put up with or deal with that kind of behavior because somebody assigned the teams and you didn't have control over the teams. But when it comes to this agency model, you have full control. You're the boss. So you can create the teams you want to create and manage them how you want to manage them. If you stick to what I teach, you're going to have a very successful business, a very profitable business that is very efficient and does very, very well, very quickly. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. My
Excuse me.
mindset
You're welcome.
is a little reprogrammed,
Good.
and
Good.
I'm definitely closer to where I need to be to get on the phone tomorrow. Is there any, I don't know, final preparations that you would recommend for me for tomorrow?
Take a walk now. Take a walk and reflect, of course. Take a walk in the morning when you wake up and get good sleep in between. Eat well. Don't drink a lot. And by drink, I mean alcohol.
No, I don't.
In other words, take care of yourself, especially
Mm-hmm.
now because you're about to have a really fucking awesome yet hard week. Okay.
Okay.
And that's like you should be saying Happy New Year like 2020 can't leave fast enough. And I don't mean that like a lot of people are already there, but I mean you should feel like you are counting down the last several hours of 2020 because you've got 10 clients. You're going to have a big smile on your face, but at the same time, I want you in those double digits this week. I want you to work your ass off like you've never worked before in client acquisition, and I promise you the rest will come. I'm here for you on that to make sure that happens. So I haven't led you wrong so far. I'm not about to start now. Just do what you got to do and take it from there and start to understand and work with the concept of I'm always going to be type A. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not fucking broken. I'm actually, if anything, I'm really smart and I have an advantage over a lot of people because of that. Because my mentor in this business model is also type A, and not just to the level of understanding, but to the level of understanding and teaching me about my type A shit because he's already been there and done that in a lot of these cases. So once you have that realization and you're able to accept that and let go of the perfectionism for the priority of whenever it comes down to a choice of do I be perfect or do I go with the greater good? Greater good will always take priority. Notice I said priority. If you have a little time, like I said, you'll get better with that as time goes, but always have the priority setting to just think of it as a phone setting, right? Think of it as your personal setting. You're going to flip that over to greater good. Perfection is number 2. That's it. You do those things. Take care of yourself tonight. Do that walk for reflection today. Do one in the morning, first thing. Study your script for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Go over the urgency, go over the tonal patterns, the reassurance and urgency, rather. And you'll be ready to go. I mean, I don't see anything else that you really need.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
You're welcome. Always. All right. Oh, there we go. Cool. I'm going to mute you, Robert. Okay. That way we don't have any background noise. And we did last call on comments. That was a good conversation, but we did last call on comments and questions. So I'm going to read through those real quick and we'll be out of here. 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, all right? 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow morning. Let's see. John Smith, thinking on we, as consumers of services, accept less than 100% almost every day, yet some of us, me, are reluctant to even start unless we can deliver 100%. Learn a lot tonight. That's good, John. By the way, John, if you're still on, I think it was you, had mentioned something about the Ring Ads royalty rings, right? The rings. And the color of the stones. I asked you, I didn't tag you, that maybe that was my fault. But I asked you what you meant by the different colored stones and the different rings. If you wouldn't mind over in the mentorship, if that was you, elaborating on that, like what you meant by the different multicolored stone versions, I'd really appreciate that because I'm open to like those designs, those renderings are not set in stone. They're pretty close, but again, I want to hear what you have to say about that if that was you. If it's not, I'll find out who that was in the mentorship, but I want to know about that. And as far as the 100%, excuse me, as far as the 100% thing, I mean, that is, I'm glad you were able to pick that up. That's good. I'm sure there are other people that did as well, but seriously, helps a lot. Adrian just recommended a book. Looks like here. What is this? Morning Attitude of Gratitude video. Afternoon Millionaire Mindset Daily Power Affirmations. Evening Program Your Subconscious Mind for Success and Wealth. And then number 4, watch this video by Steve Harvey and apply these steps. And number 5, surround yourself with positive people. Absolutely. I don't know about these other links, but I'm sure they're pretty good just based on the descriptions there. Adrian says, in order to change limiting mind beliefs, example, money is the root of evil. Like you said, here they are. Create a vision board. This is proven both in religion and also in science. Put everything you want on the board. Get a big stack of cash. Depending on your location, it may be legal to purchase play money, for instance. Amazon sells this, so it's legal in the U.S. Get a few stacks and play with it. Play with the money, meditate on it, feel the money. Meditate on the things you want, and that's where those sources come in. Those are good suggestions. I've never really done the play money thing. I have ordered play money, but not for those purposes. I used it for an actual teaching on stage. But I do carry around several $100s at all times, just cash, just to feel it and have it. So that, and by the way, real cash feels completely different than fake cash. And that's, for somebody who holds cash a lot, you're going to know the difference. So for me, it is a mental thing, but I do that, play with the actual cash, 100%, most definitely. I do that. Questy says, hey, William, need to run now. We'll watch the last bit later on. See you on the call tomorrow. Awesome. John Smith says, it was and will do. Awesome. All right. So everybody's good to go. And everybody already said they were good to go. They're like, fuck, that was an hour ago. Well, when Robert comes on the call, we gotta have a good talk, right? And hopefully you gained a lot from that. It was an excellent talk. Great use of our time as always. And again, you get to learn a little bit more about me and why I do things the way I do and why things are structured the way they are and all that fun stuff. So, man, whoever would have thought this month would have gone this way, for better or worse, but mostly better. I will admit. I'm very pleased with everybody's results. Work hard. Now is the time to double down, triple down, quadruple down, wherever you're at. Put more down, put more in the middle because it's going to pay out big time, right, by New Year's Eve. And I expect some wild changes and improvements to the board this week. Everybody's got all the reasons and then some to produce and get up on that board And I'll tell you, it puts a smile on my face if you couldn't tell. But for you guys, I know it's going to do the same thing and then some. So I'll leave it at that. I love you guys. Keep working hard. I'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. for December Dash. Remember, we're doing the mentorship call at 12, and then we're doing that for 2 hours. I'll come back to the main group for the free call at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here in the main group. And so 3 calls tomorrow should be interesting to say the least. But it ain't our first rodeo doing that. So I don't expect any problems or major challenges. But I got to go take care of this tickle in my throat. I'm not sure what's going on there. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right. Bye for now.
Cool. You fall. Back on my shit with a new advantage. I leave it up to you to settle the damage. Diamond, yeah, I know it's foreign to him. I came from the guts of rural Alabama. Steph Curry wrist, watch with the handle. Simple motors, gotta lead by example. Not too many make it out when they doubt. Never been about bailing off of my route. Rain gang, got the city HD. Hate to see my brother die every week. Numb to your vision. My life got me too fucked up. Disrespect to make a nigga go dumb. Pillow talking while you nursing that bitch and turn you to a scrub. Outlet prices from the plug. Bay Shore, Ocean View, or win Adidas with the boots. Niggas out here slinging arbitrage, so the money really no excuse. Welcome to the